Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the move of What If Deku Saw the Multiverse? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The students of Class 1A are finding themselves sitting around in a theater room, all wondering what they're currently doing here. Well, some of you may be wondering why exactly we gather all of you here. Aizawa said. Aizawa is standing at the center, about to explain the doubts of the students. And the reason is because, recently Ms. Hatsum from the support course, achieved to create a device that would let us to take a look into other universes. All of the students stared at him in confusement, before then erupting the whole room with screams and asking a lot of questions that were directed at Aizawa. Does that mean there are other universes too? Mina said. But isn't the multiverse just a theory? What are you saying, Aizawa-sensei? Jair asked. Is that why we are in a theater? That's so cool. Hagakure said. Tired of all the questions, Aizawa activates his quirk to silence the students. Niza, being able to speak again, decides to comment on the topic. As Aizawa was previously explaining, this invention that Miss Hatsum invented could very well permit us an awareness of our own timeline and would help us greatly to improve ourselves. But it would also warn us of upcoming events that these alternate versions have experienced by then. Miss Hatsum, however, gave us a warning regarding the device. The students were listening closely at this. She said that the device itself has to select someone, a catalyst to view through. But when the said person is selected, she said that all the universes are going to be in a rather distinctive ambient. Nizu, given the still confused faces the students were making, decided to provide more. This means that this will allow us to see this person's life in a more NTMT, or rather in a more personal insight. Nizu said. Yayazura raises her hand, and Nizu allows her to talk. But then, isn't that violating their privacy, Nedzu-san? Yayarozu asked. What if the contents in the universes are not morally correct? What we would do in that case? The pro-heroes and I reviewed some of the universes beforehand with a different catalysm to understand how it would go, and we all agreed that we could allow you to see it. That's why we're here, to be able to supervise you when the contents of the person selected are showed on the screen. And to answer your question, Miss Yayarozu, we wouldn't force anyone in to participate. If the person wishes to withdraw at any moment, it wouldn't be a problem. So, returning to the topic, we still need to permit the device to choose its catalysm. Aizawa said. Hatsum decides this as his signal to walk to the stage, and prepares to turn on her device. Hatsum, you can start now, Nizu said as he looked where Hatsum was grabbing the lever along with what seemed like a heavy chair that contained a helmet. Okay, this baby will let us see any universe we want. Is the best of my babies so far. The device right now is scanning for the catalyst in this room. After he stops looking, the name will show on the same big screen. We'll see the universes, she says, all with a wide smile on her face. Izuku looked amazed at the device of Hatsum. This device could change the world as we know. Who knows what we could do with a machine like that? We could prevent wars to happen, or even mortal sicknesses. Midoriya thought. Midoriya was mumbling all the things that could be done with the help of Hatsum's invention while the rest of the students looked at Midoriya, accustomed to him always mumbling whenever he was excited. Hatsum presses the lever down, causing the chair to shake before it appeared a white light that seemed to come from the same machine. The big screen flashed, and after a few minutes of waiting, a name, or rather, names, showed up. Izuku Midoriya and Todoroki Shuto. Oh, I didn't expected this to happen, at all, Hatsum, still with a grin. Wait, what? Izuku screamed, while everyone was staring at him and Todoroki. Alt-hot Todoroki didn't look worried at all. Is the device broken or something? Why would the Demon Nerd and Icy Hot would be the FA catalyst? Bakugu yelled. Everyone was talking to each other or were just glancing at Midoriya and Todoroki in puzzlement. It should be surprising, but it isn't to me. Though I do wonder why you two were chosen by that weird machine. Uraraka said, pointing at Midoriya and then at Todoroki. I agree with Uraraka-san. Why would the device would choose Midoriya and Todoroki? I thought the catalysm could only be one person. Ida questioned. Despite the fact that the two were selected, I think at the end it doesn't matter. Either way the device will serve its purpose, that is to show us our alternate selves. Yaoyorozu remarked. That's true, Yaoyorozu-san. I don't know the whole reason why we were selected, but it could mean that our other selves may have some answers we still don't. Midoriya answered. I am not very interesting though. I dunno why the machine chose me. Todoroki disagreed. I want to sleep though. I hope this ends soon. Todoroki thinks. Nisa looked at the screen and then asked Hatsum. Has this ever happened before? I thought the device could only choose one person at the same time. I think so too, but I guess my baby proved me wrong. Hatsum said. All Might was behind Aizawa, and he wasn't surprised in the slightest that Midoriya Shonen was selected. But what if they show the truth about One for All? All Might thought, concerned about Midoriya and One for All. It's supposed to be kept a secret after all. Nizu caught All Might's concerned glance, but didn't say anything about it. Aizawa sighed. Midoriya, Todoroki. Naturally it would be two of my problem childs, Aizawa said, hidden under his scarf. Nizu clapped his paws together. Well, no matter. That only means we would alternate between Midoriya and Todoroki. They would change positions when the machine says so. So all of you, take a sit and Midoriya, would you? Midoriya nodded and walked over to the device to sit down on the chair. Until the device needs to change of person, Todoroki will stay with the rest of the class. Is that clear, Todoroki-san? Todoroki nodded too and took a sit next to Uraraka and Ida. Does it hurt? Hatsum-san. Midoriya asked with an anxious look on his face. I hope it doesn't hurt. Midoriya thought, not wanting to be hurted by the shady device of Hatsum. Hatsum only grinned, not clearing Midoriya's worries away at all. Hatsum strapped his arms and placed the helmet on his head. She pressed some buttons on a panel and it selected a universe, the machine vibrating. The big screen glimmered once, before finally going white, all set to project. Let's see what the device has to offer, shall we? The screen appears, showing the classroom of Class 1A. On the blackboard of the room was shown in white chalk a question. Who's the cutest in the class? Competition. So this is what you all do on your free time? Aizawa asked from his seat. The students in question didn't look ashamed enough but did manage a sorry sensei in return. If the competition was for the hottest, then it would be totally Yaoyorozu, said a horny Mineta, not caring about Aizawa's last statement. One vote for the number one bust, Yaoyorozu Momo. Mineta exclamates. Uraraka also seems to be high in girl power. Kaminari said. Todoroki, hurry up and cast your vote already. Kirishima said. Not interested. Todoroki said, not interested enough. What are you guys doing? Midoriya asked, walking right into their conversation. Leave, before you can, Midoriya-kun. Ida screamed at the screen. You've come at a good time, Midoriya. Who do you like best of the girls? Kaminari interrogates. Midoriya blushes. We're deciding who's the cutest in our class. Shiro said. Have you guys noticed that Midoriya always blushes whenever they mention a girl? Tsuyu asked, tilting her head. Yeah. But Midoriya gets embarrassed so easily, it's not wonder. Mina stated. I strongly believe this is Dash. Ida's mouth is then covered with Ojiro's tail. I also believe we shouldn't approve this kind of conduct, Dash. Ida's mouth is also covered with Ojiro's tail. Let him be man. Ojiro said. That is, I think they're all cute though. Midoriya fidgets in his place and turns pink at Kaminari's question. Todoroki then announces freely. One vote for Midoriya. So now you're suddenly into this? Kaminari cries out. I didn't thought you think that about Midoriya, Todoroki-kun, Tsuyu said. Is it love I see? Mina asked, already acting as a matchmaker. Cute my butt. Bakugu said. Don't be rude, Baku bro. Kirishima responds to Bakugu's aggressiveness. I think Midoriya is appealing enough, I guess. Todoroki said. But he always breaks his bones, so he looks more constipated than cute. Todoroki thought. Mina squeals in his place, already coming up with a ship name. In another chalkboard, the question appeared to be, who's the coolest in the class? Competition. That would probably be Todoroki. Jiru said. What about me? Says Kaminari. The contest is about the coolest in the class, not the dumbest. Jiru said flatly. If we're just going by appearances, then it's Todoroki-kun. Tsuyu suggests. If Bakugo could stay quiet, as long as he stays quiet. Yaoyazura said. What did you said, ponytail? I am quiet. Bakugo lets out mini explosions from his hands. Bakugo may be quiet in another universe. Uraraka said with a bit of sarcasm in her tone. Kaminari too, unless he's like that. Then there's no way. Jiru. Kaminari tries to look offended at this, while Jiru agreed with his other self. What about Deku-kun? What do you guys think? Uraraka asked the girls. Yeah. What about Deku-kun? He's really cool too. Uraraka said. It's true, Midoriya-kun is really amazing. And not only because of his quirk. Ida said. All girls then direct their attention to the board, pointing out the name of the competition to Uraraka, because she seemed to get a different competition in mind, so they clear that out. That's really sad. Tokoyami said. Poor Midoriya, girls have no compassion. Shiro agrees. It must be upsetting. Kirishima said. I get you, Midoriya, they didn't appreciate you either by your manliness. Kirishima raises his fist in the air because of the unfairness of the situation. Midoriya-chan isn't cool in the usual sense, but it's impossible to not want to nominate him. Tsuyu admitted. Rather than reliable, how do I explain this feeling? Yaoyazura blushes slightly, trying to make sense of her words. It reminds you that there are times when you need to protect, you know. Yaoyazura said. I also caught myself thinking like that a while back. Jiru blushed too. All the girls were blushing a little at this. Demon at Midoriya. You're getting all the girls. It's so unfair. Mineta screamed. The scene changed, with Uraraka and Midoriya talking. That was amazing, Deku-kun. So jumpity. She refers to Midoriya's movements. Thank you. It's as if you were like a cute rabbit. Uraraka said. Midoriya, after hearing this, his illusion of Uraraka saying, you were really a pro-hero. So cool, suddenly shatters. Dan Uraraka, you are hurting Midoriya's pride as a man. Kirishima said. But it's true though. Uraraka retorted. Yeah, his new movement. I think it was called Dash, Ojiro started. Shoot style, right? Hagakure finished for Ojiro. Yeah. It makes him look like the rabbit hero Mirko. I don't think Midoriya did it with that intention though. Shoji clarified. The girls hear Uraraka and gather up. That's what I thought too. Hagakure said. Here, let me give this to you. Yaoyazura giggles, putting Midoriya a pair of green bunny ears. It really suits you. Mina said. You look really cute, Midoriya-chan. Tsuyu said. Thanks. Midoriya said, all of his dignity as a man to the trash. You girls are killing him. Kaminari said. It's Midoriya's fault for looking like a bunny. Mina responded. Hey look, Midoriya is playing with the girls. Kaminari noted. Mineta stares in jealousy. So jealous. Bakugo is in the background looking annoyed at the commotion. Midoriya looks ashamed as enough when Todoroki pats Midoriya's shoulder. Midoriya turns around when he hears a snap of a phone. Todoroki sneaks out his phone, taking the example of the other Todoroki. The rest of the classroom decides to do the same and snap pictures of Midoriya in bunny ears. Todoroki-kun, what are you doing? Midoriya questioned. Taking a picture. Todoroki said as if was obvious. Wa Todoroki-kun, good idea. All of the girls thanks to Todoroki were taking pictures of Midoriya. Midoriya hides under his arms, blushing and says. Stop it, please, Midoriya begged. The video came to an end when the screen went dark. Well, I think that universe didn't provide us with anything at all. Shiro said, breaking the silence. Not all of the universes shown are going to be helpful at first, but later on we could bump into a universe that could provide us a best intel. Nizu explained. Yes, Zero, give it a chance. That was just the first video, and besides, we did gain something after all. Mina said, trying to convince Zero as she looked through her phone with pictures of Midoriya in those cute bunny ears. I didn't know Yayorozu could do cute things like that. You know, apart from cannonballs and that, she always builds pretty rough stuff, so it was kind of mind-opening. Hagakure confessed. That's not true at all. In fact, the first thing I created from my quirk was a Matryoshika dolls from a very early age. I used that as a quirk training tool. Yaoyazura said as she remembers fondly as the first ready-made product that she was able to create flawlessly. Now I can pop them out one after the other without sparing a thought, Yaoyazura informed. Oh, I think I saw you making those dolls when we were in the practical exam, Todoroki said, thinking a while back when they were fighting Aizawa. Yeah, those were the same dolls. I'm surprised you remembered, Todoroki-kun. Yaoyazura said. Not really, but I figured they were the same ones you created since they popped out of you from all over your body in the exam. Todoroki said. Whoa, that's really cool, Yamamo. You should make some of those dolls later. Mina said. While the others were conversing, Hatsum pressed down the next button on her panel. Hey guys, I think another video just reproduced. Kirishima said, pointing at the screen. Everyone began to keep silent as the video slowly began to appear. The scene opens up with a small Izuku with his mother standing on the door of a house. Izuku, do you want to skip school today? Inko said, with a concerned glance at little Izuku. Ah, why do little Midoriya seem so sad? Kaminari asks, looking at the screen. Izuku, on the other hand, looked tired, with eye bags starting to form from his small eyes. He looked like he hadn't been sleeping well. Yeah, now that you say it, he does kind of look sad. Mineta said. Midoriya-chan looks dread. Tsuyu said bluntly. Assassin, don't be so rude. Uraraka replied. I'm not, I have little brothers back home, and they seem more cheerful than him. Tsuyu answered, noting Midoriya's aspect closely. I'll go, Izuku said in a dead voice, looking more serious than what a child should sound for his age. Inko looked down, but allowed Izuku to go past the front door. Wow, that's not how a child is supposed to sound. Ojiro said. Yeah, I wonder what's bothering Deku-kun. Uraraka said, worrying over Midoriya. It's a rare case where he has no quirk of any kind. That was the gist of it. I feel empty. It could be because of the hollowness of what I feel, but maybe it's because I lack of a quirk, something that should be within me. Wait, what does he mean by that? Kirishima asked, but he already knew the answer. Midoriya not having a quirk? Todoroki thought, glancing at the screen. That must be pretty sad then, not having a quirk. Uraraka said, her voice full of sadness. But Kuga-san, you know Midoriya the longest, did he really lack of a quirk? That wouldn't make sense at all, since he does have one. Ida turned to ask Bakugo. All Might was starting to get nervous and Bakugo noticed, so he growled and spoke. Don't ask me. What the hell should I know? For all we know in this shitty universe that DMN nerd is quirkless. Bakugo said, lying through his teeth. The Midoriya from that universe may lack of a quirk, like mentioned there, unlike our Midoriya that does have one. That's the only possible explanation, Yaoyazura commented his thoughts to the class. So he's really quirkless. Kaminari said with a low voice. That was really close. All Might thought. He sighed. He was relieved the students didn't relate this universe with the timeline they're in. All Might stared closer at the screen. The lack of a quirk is indeed pretty frustrating for some, but young Midoriya, being born without one, managed to succeed and achieve his dream that was getting into UA. And now with the help of One for All, young Midoriya is just a few steps to become a pro hero. Aizawa watched attentively, not commenting on anything. Just watching, and Nizu looked intrigued and took a sip of his tea. Midoriya was sitting in his room. He was kneeling in front of his notebook, watching closely to the blank page. But if I'm empty, then just like how I can fill this pure white notebook, maybe someday I won't be so empty anymore. Midoriya grabbed a color and started drawing into the blank page a smiley All Might. gradually drawing on and on. A tear fell to his notebook, washing over the drawing of All Might he was currently doing. Midoriya gripped his color harder. Drawing on and on. Izuku, no longer holding off, started to shed in tears. But the reality of it all keeps flashing before my eyes. Midoriya was sobbing harder, tears rolling down his wet cheeks. In my life, my world can never reach the light of hope. Young Midoriya. All Might thought. Uraraka gripped his hands into a fist. This isn't something someone so young should be thinking about. I'm sorry, Deku-kun, for not being able to do anything to help you in that universe. Ida looked like he wanted to say something but decided against it. Bakugo seemed aggrieved. He looked thoughtful. Izuku dropped on his knees, making himself smaller. It's not pure white. All the students in the room didn't know what to say, that since all his life they were born with a quirk and didn't think much about it. So they were at a loss of words in how to fill the noise into the silent room. So that's what you thought, was it? Bakugo thought, his brows furrowing deeper. It was night now, so Izuku got out of his room, seeing it was dinner time by now. Izuku, do you want to have an overnight stay tomorrow? Inko asked him. Izuku was already sitting on his small chair. Grabbing the spoon over to his mouth, he swallowed the curly his mom prepared before answering. Overnight stay? Izuku asked in a small voice. To your grandma's house. She was always so nice to you. Inko exclaimed, happy by the memory of those times. Remember how we used to go there by bus often when you were younger? Inko inquired, trying to light up the mood. His mom is trying her best. Koda said silently. He saw that Izuku was not touching his food any longer, noticing his mind was not in the conversation anymore. Sometimes it's nice to have a change of pace. No. Inko was about to give up when Izuku made a sound of agreement. He was looking at his food he hadn't touched for the past 10 minutes before touching it again. I'll go. Izuku said, playing with his cold food. I'm going for a walk. Izuku murmured. He putted his shoes on and closed the door. His mom almost wouldn't have heard what he said if she wasn't nearby the door. Be careful. Don't go so far from the house that you can't see the street corner. Inko reminded him. You could hear her voice even behind the door. Okay. Izuku murmured back. Izuku was walking down the street, thinking about how his mom seemed happier when he was with grandma. Izuku smiled at that. His mom was really happy to be with her. Mom and grandma are being really nice. They're letting me eat all sorts of different sweets, like that yummy cake from earlier. Izuku thought. Mom was laughing a lot too. They worry a lot for Deku-kun. Uraraka thought with a sad smile on her face. But Izuku stopped on his tracks. He was in front of another house that was close to the street he was in. We're going home tomorrow, Izuku declared to none one in particular. It was 4 p.m. and the streets were empty. I'll wake up in my own bed and have to go to school again. Izuku didn't want it to go back. Not when he and his mom were having so much fun. School is also fun, but Izuku clenched his fists. He started to see dark even in broad daylight. That the shadows, they looked like figures of the kids that always looked down on him. Is Midoriya okay? Sato asked, looking into the teacher's direction. Reminds him of the same mean things they all say to him on daily basis. The others started to look concerned too. You're useless, you can't do anything. Go away and don't come back, said the voices of others' kids in his head. Bakugo growled, narrowing his eyes. Kids can be so not manly sometimes. Kirishima spoke. He could feel the ground closer to him. His heart was beating faster and faster. His breathing was quickening at a fast rate. Guys, I think he's having a dash. It's turning pitch black again. Anxiety attack, Todoroki ended, recognizing it at first instance. Izuku sat on the pavement with his head on his knees for a moment, and then began to weep softly. I'm afraid to look up and open my eyes. If he did, he would see the darkness surrounding him. He didn't like it. He didn't want that. Correct, Midoriya-kun is experimenting at the moment an anxiety attack. This moment in particular already passed in that timeline, so we can only hope he solved his conflict with himself. Niza said. Midoriya squeezed his arms harder to stop trembling. It's no good, the pitch blackness is going to swallow me up. What's wrong? Are you okay? A voice asked him. Midoriya flinched. He keeps his head on the same position before glancing up to the person, tears remaining on his face. A kid that seemed to be around Izuku's age was looking at him with a concerned face. Look guys. Is Todoroki, Hagakure said, his invisible hand pointing excitedly at the screen. Oh. Yeah, that's me. Todoroki said in a flat tone. Todoroki looks so small. Mina exclaimed. Are you hurt anywhere? The boy took a few steps closer to Izuku, his hand reaching out to him. Izuku looked into the kid's features. His eyes were mismatched, one eye blue and the other gray. The same could be said for his hair, they were different tones in the middle, half white and half red. Izuku averted his eyes when he saw the scar over his face where his left side was in, not wanting to pass off as rude for staring too long. Izuku then rubbed his eyes repeatedly to not let the other see his tears. I'm not hurt anywhere. The boy could only nod, retracting his hand saying, I see. Izuku took note of the other boy, seeing the bandages on his arms and legs. They were not much but still looked out of place. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. Hey Todoroki, why does the kid you have injuries in his body? Kirishima asked. Todoroki didn't answer, not knowing the answer himself, so he finds himself shrugging. Those bandages, does that means you have injuries? Are you okay? Izuku asked, feeling dismayed when pointing out his bandages. This. The kid jolted, looking uneasy all sudden. He brushed his bandages and said, was from my own quirk. That's bullshit, Bakugo thought. Did you injured yourself with your quirk when you were younger, Todoroki-kun? Uraraka asked. That's pretty dangerous, you should have been more careful. Ida said, scolding Todoroki. Todoroki narrowed his eyes lightly. Those are not from injuring myself. Now seeing the bandages from closely, I can tell that those are from Endeavor's flames. Izuku looked perturbed at the thought of your own quirk being the cause of your own pain. It's fine if you don't want to talk about it. Izuku said as he started to sweat up. I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want to. Izuku nervously continued. I'll act as nothing happened. Okay. The other kid said in a low tone. Every other kid around me wants to talk about their quirk, but this kid doesn't like to talk about it though. Izuku thought. He started to turn a little pink from seeing the other kid, instantaneously looking engaging to the other and a little more safe. Young lovey, Mina exclaimed. Todoroki only blinked slowly before returning to the screen. Where's love to begin with? Todoroki asked himself. I see, so there are also kids like this. Izuku, wanting to engage a conversation, said, do you live around here? The other kid nods, and Izuku suddenly lightens up. So were you on your way home? Izuku asks. I don't want to go back home anymore. The other kid said, crossing his arms, looking serious. Any more? Why? Izuku asked, surprised. He was shocked because, why did he not want it to go back home? It was almost weird. The other kid grabbed his blue cap to hide his face. It's no fun back home. The students looked almost as confused as the Izuku on the screen. Why would Todoroki not want to go home to his parents? They must be worried. Uraraka said. I don't know, maybe he's bored or something. Shiro responded. If that's the case, then I totally can relate. When I was a kid, I would always go for a fork and then inserted it on the toaster. Kaminari said, not knowing his situation and the other were two different things that had nothing in common. All students looked at Kaminari like he grew a second head because, well, he did. And that leads us to the present. Jiru sighs. Glad to know how you turned out like this. Jiru said with a snicker. I have to train for my quirk a lot. And I can't say I'd rather play instead. The boy seemed like he didn't want to share more with Izuku, but continued. Since it makes my mother feel sad, I feel sad, too. A shade over the kid eyes appeared that brings out his eyes to a more dullness tone under it, making his light eyes look more darker than before. I don't like that look on his face. Shiro said. You know what's he talking about, Todoroki? Ida questioned. I don't quite understand what this Todoroki is trying to say either. Yaoyazura said. Aizawa grumbled under his scarf and Nizu prepared a second cup of tea for himself. If our situations are similar, then I think I do. Todoroki thought. He's just like me. Izuku thought. Todoroki finded himself agreeing to this Midoriya because he didn't think they had a lot in common. Despite the situation, Izuku couldn't help but feel gleeful, a red tint highlighting his cheeks and his freckled nose. Uraraka blushed at how cute Deku looked when he was a kid. Izuku didn't want the kid to leave so soon, so he yelled, "Then how about you play with me?" Izuku blushed. He was embarrassed because a person that was passing down the street gave Izuku a look to him like he was a weird freak. Which he probably was. Aha, even if you play with me, it might not be that fun at all. That is, Izuku suddenly regret his choice. The boy may not even want to play with him and... Really? You'll play with me? The kid brightened up, interrupting his muttering. When he looked at those heterochromatic eyes, Izuku realized he couldn't say no to him. I guess Midoriya's muttering comes from a long time ago, huh? Ojiro huffed. Bakugo, not making any remarks since a while now, was in fact silent as a rock. So, what's your name? Izuku asked to the other boy. My name's Izuku. What's yours? He smiled. The two boys were on the park around the corner, walking close to each other. I'm Shudo. The other kid said, now presented as Shudo. Shudo-kun, well, then I'm gonna call you Sho-chan, okay? Izuku said, his smile becoming wider. Ah, kids are so cute. Especially Midoriya. Mina exclaimed. Shudo flushed in a darker tone of red. He was overjoyed to be given a nickname for the first time in his life. The students laughed and Todoroki smiled. Just a little. The smile on Izuku's face faded away and was replaced by a small frown. I said earlier I wouldn't ask you about your quirk, but if you don't mind then can I ask? Izuku lowered his head. Some students were wondering why this version of Midoriya was more shy, but then remembered that he wasn't as confident as the Midoriya they knew because he lacked of a quirk, which they understood. I don't mind. I like you, so I'll tell you. Shudo said. Izuku raised his head again and smiled softly. My quirk is called half hot half cold. Shudo started explaining his quirk. Half hot half cold? Izuku titled his head, just like a confused puppy. Ah, he's the cutest. Hagakure chirped in a small voice to the adorable face Midoriya was making. It's basically fire and ice, I guess. Shudo said, letting his ice show at the tip of his fingertips. Izuku was impressed. He had an awe expression at the moment. Whoa! That's so super cool. Izuku said. Of course Midoriya would say that, for him every quirk is like some golden egg. Shiro said. Yeah, he always finds something useful in a quirk, even to Mineta's. Jiru said. Hey, I heard you. Mineta said. I know, that's why I said it. Jiru answered. It's not really. The others said. Izuku saw that the boy was uncomfortable talking about it, so he decided to turn the topic into another direction. Well, I think your quirk is kind of like a super awesome powered air conditioner. Izuku exclaimed. PFTTT, an air conditioner. Jiru snorted. Is that the first thing that went through his mind? Kirishima wondered. Yeah, I like to think he's more like thermos to me, Kaminari said. Shudo looked at Izuku with an incredulous expression. An air conditioner? Shudo was wearing the same incredulous expression, with a lifted eyebrow. It seemed the other kid didn't mind him talking, so he continued with the conversation. I wish I had a quirk like that too. Izuku's voice was soft, almost fragile. Bakugo looked down, a troubled expression on his eyes. Shudo, not noticing the tone Izuku just made, he asked. Like an air conditioner? He asked dumbly. Oh, ye Todoroki, you really are dense. Mina said. What do you mean? Todoroki asked. Well, you're Minnie, you clearly didn't read the room. Mina answered. No, I mean, that your quirk is very hero-like. Izuku clarified. Do you want to be one? A hero, I mean. Izuku asked, fidgeting with his sweater. Shudo responded. Yes, I do want to be one, but... He took a deep breath. I don't like my left side being a hero with this quirk, is. Shudo looked down and closed his eyes. That's why I think people with quirks like you would be way better than me. Shudo didn't bother in continuing. He avoided Izuku's stare and kicked a stone on the ground instead. You say, my quirk would be better, but I don't have a quirk at all? Izuku thought, his eyes turning dull. The students tried to empathize with him, feeling sad for his friend. Izuku made a fist with his hands. He was feeling the darkness within him, starting to invade him again. Just breathe. I don't want to scare my new friend off, or creep him out or anything. Izuku closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he started to breathe normal again, he reopened his eyes and could clearly see Shudo was playing with the sand on the floor. He didn't notice. When did he leave his side? Izuku sit down beside him, playing with the sand too to try to make a castle with what he had. How come you don't like your quirk? Izuku asked with a nervous smile. Shudo didn't look at Izuku, still playing with the sand. Because it's my father's quirk, he said while grabbing another handful of sand in his tiny hands. It's the same thing he said in the sports festivals. Ida thought. His father's quirk. Izuku thought. Shudo affirmed. It's my father's. He stopped playing with the sand to look at his left hand. That's true, he hasn't showed his fire side, maybe he doesn't want to use it. My father, he used my mother for the sake of his ambitions. Shudo frowned. Almost everyone gasped a little for what he said. The only reason I was born was because of that. To be the strongest hero, that's why I have two quirks. Because he tried to combine theirs together, to become their perfect creation. Shudo's frown deepened. Mother and I are just tools. He's the reason Mother got sick, that's why I refuse to use his power. The look on his eyes, despite of only being a child, could definitely kill if he wanted to. If that's really how you should become a hero, then I prefer not wanting to be one. Shudo said, hatred sounding clear on his voice. The students suddenly went quiet, not knowing what to think. Does this situation also applies to Todoroki? Or only in this different universe? Yaoyazura thought, glancing at Todoroki who didn't took his eyes off the screen. Sho-chan, the face you're making keeps getting worse and worse. Izuku was a little afraid at the look on his friend's face. Shudo startled at Izuku's voice, and blinked his eyes quickly. Sorry. Izuku approached Shudo, leaving his unfinished castle behind. I'm Quirkless. Izuku said out of nowhere, making Shudo's eyes widen. I think it was something you should know. Izuku avoided eye contact with Shudo. I don't think I get your situation at all. The students didn't get the situation that this Shudo seemed to have at all either, but kept listening. And this might sound stupid coming from a person like me, but... Izuku focused on Shudo's face. You do still want to be a hero, right? Izuku said, not expecting him to answer. I know you just said you don't, but I like to think otherwise. Shudo hesitated but nodded. Then, just stay true to yourself. Izuku giggled and smiled. He grabbed Shudo's hands, and they both started spinning in circles. People aren't united by their blood. Izuku was beaming, his curly green hair was blowing in the wind. Shudo stared at Izuku, starting to smile too. Is love what brings people together? Izuku exclaimed, and before they know it, the two were spinning more quickly. Izuku and Shudo almost fell into the floor because of a rock that was on the ground. To Shudo, everything was happening in slow motion. He could see Izuku's freckled face still grinning and spinning slowly. A second felt like an hour, and Shudo only noticed that he was smiling when he touched his face with one hand, and this made him smile somehow more wider than before. So, it's okay to use your power, Sho-chan. Izuku said in a gentle voice. Be the kind of hero that you want to be. Izuku's hair was dancing with the air, his skin was of a fair smoothly tone, but under the sun it seemed like his skin was shining delicately over him. Todoroki's eyes widened for a moment, recognizing the familiar words Midoriya just said. Just now he sounded just like my mom. Todoroki thought. The two stopped spinning around, and noticed they couldn't stop smiling for some reason. Everyone was grinning at this. Midoriya was still the determinate person he was in every universe after all. Always helping people. The hero that I want to be? Shudo asked. Yeah, I know we have only known each other for a few moments, but I think you're gonna be a really good hero, Sho-chan. Izuku said. You know, you kind of remind me a little of All Might. Izuku admits, feeling a little shy. Shudo stared at him confused. Like All Might? Why do you say that? I'm nothing like him, he's really amazing. Shudo stated. Maybe, but he has a good heart, just like you. Izuku exclaimed. All Might blushed a little under the compliment. Shudo smiled brightly, honored by being compared to a hero like All Might. So, then that means he's your favorite hero? Shudo asked. He's the bestest of the heroes. Izuku said with a smile, no longer sad because he was talking about his favorite hero. He's my favorite too. Shudo said. Well, we all knew Midoriya was a fanboy to the heart, but this information is new. Todoroki is low-key also a fanboy, Hagakure said. No, I'm not, I just respect All Might, a great pro-hero. That's all. Todoroki corrected her. Everyone failed to notice the tiny line of nervousness in his mouth. All Might started laughing with his bombing laughter before turning to Todoroki. No need to be shy, my boy, it's all right. A simple admiration is nothing to be embarrassed about. All Might reassured Todoroki. We couldn't stop gushing about hero stories, and so we ended up talking about All Might and other heroes, until the day began to fade into dusk. Izuku noticed it was past 6 p.m., and that he was late for dinner. That I have to go home now, my mom's probably looking for me now. Izuku said with a sad smile. But Izuku then remembered something. It's no fun back home. Are you? Izuku asked. He didn't finish his question, but Shudo understood. That it's okay, I'm going to properly go home. Shudo nodded. He seemed less upset than before. Izuku looked relieved and sighed. That's good, yeah. Izuku didn't know what to say. He didn't have a lot of friends, so he probably looked very awkward right now. You know what? Shudo started talking. Izuku, startled by the sudden question, said, WW what? Talking to you, that wasn't boring at all. Shudo grinned a little, and glanced up at Izuku. You're really cool, that's so for me playing with you, has been really fun. So, thank you. Shudo was smiling now and blushing a little. A blinding light, alt hot, it's just a small lig HT. Izuku trembled slightly, tears gathering up in his eyes. This universe reminds me of a movie I saw of a dog once. That was dying. Kaminari was sniffling, trying not to cry. Kirishima was patting Kaminari's back. It's okay, bro. You can cry, those are manly tears. My pitch-black world suddenly became more colorful than my colors pencils. Izuku looked at Shudo, and when he saw him, it was as if he was seeing him for the first time, bright colors filling his eyesight. He could see now his left eye in a turquoise tone rather than a dull blue, while his right, instead of a somewhat dark grayish eye, was now a silver-gray tone. Me too. Thank you. Izuku closed his eyes shut. That's why I thought I should do my best again. Izuku cleaned his tears with his sweater and gave a blinding smile to Shudo. Shudo smiled a little too, wondering what could have been if they met at a younger age. His smile, so bright. Uraraka said, taking a pair of sunglasses out of nowhere. Hagakure and Mina choked back a squeal, totally in awe at little Izuku's bright smile. Alt hot, the figure of that person whom I never saw again gradually faded from my memory. Their words continued to shine a line within me. The big screen suddenly went dark. Play the next Hatsum. The universe we just saw was so cutty. I can't imagine how the rest of them will go. Hagakure said. Hatsum, play the next one, and it will be the last for today. Aizawa announced, eliciting boos from the crowd. Don't boo me or you'll get detention. Aizawa threatened, silencing the students. I like to collect things. Silly things like All Might pencils, the kind you get at the restaurants as a toy along with your Happy Meal. Hero cards that you'll never use, because who needs a hero card describing their quirks when I already have a whole notebook full of them? That's an unexpected beginning. Jiru said. I didn't knew Midoriya-kun liked to collect things. That's a really admirable hobby. Ida exclaimed. I didn't even know that they gave All Might pencils until now. Ojiro chuckled. And the things I especially like to save. Love letters. The girls gave us from the crowd. That's so romantic. Mina said. I didn't knew Midoriya was a romanticist. Tokoyami said. That's so lovey-dovey to me. Mineta made a fake puke gesture. Deku-kun, with love letters? Uraraka blushed slightly, making her cheeks look even more pink. Todoroki looked surprised. Since he didn't know Midoriya was that kind of guy, maybe he can give him advice in how to write his letter to his mom. He started writing her letters so she doesn't feel too lonely. Of all the things I save, I guess you could say my love letters are my most prized possession. Most people would say that my notebooks are the most important thing I possess. They are not wrong, but these letters are also very important to me. Alongside my hero notebooks, there's a secret notebook I have never showed to nobody. There's nothing written in the notebook, really, is just a cover for what's really inside of it. I keep my letters in there. OMG, do you guys think that Midoriya has this notebook in our universe? Mina questioned excitedly. When we get back to the dorms, we are so totally going to find out. Mina made a devilish smirk, already planning on bursting in Midoriya's room. Invading a classmate's privacy is violation of the rule dash. Ida was interrupted by Bakugu's explosions. Shut up, Four Eyes. I can't hear sheet on the screen because of you. Bakugu said, annoyed by Ida. Here's the thing about my letters, they aren't love letters that someone else wrote for me. I don't have any of those. These are ones I've written. There's one for every person I've ever loved, 5 in all. None one knows about it, I always leave it in my room. The notebook is concealed as another basic thing you could encounter and not would even spare a second glance to it, so I don't worry about people grabbing it. Mina smiled. Jiru saw Mina smile. She always did it when she was planning on something. I would start worrying about people finding it though. Jiru thought. When I write, I hold nothing back. I write like they'll never read it. Because they never will. Every secret thought, every careful observation, everything I've saved up inside me, I put it all in the letter. They were never long, no more than a page per person, but I thought it would be better to express myself in private, rather than tell any of them and risk having an embarrassing situation about it. When I'm done, I seal it, I address it, and then I put it inside my notebook, in some random white page to hide it. They're not love letters in the strictest sense of the word. My letters are for when I don't want to be in love anymore. They're for goodbye. Because after I write my letter, I'm no longer consumed by my all-consuming love. I can write about a pro-hero and not wonder if he likes him as much as I do too. If love is like a possession, maybe my letters are like my exorcisms. My letters set me free. Or at least they're supposed to. Oh, I sense drama. Mina giggled. Come on, Midoriya and drama don't go in a sentence together. He's the most unproblematic guy. Kirishima said. The scene showed Midoriya. He was finding himself sitting on his blue seat office chair his mom bought him once when he was in middle school. He was writing some new info he obtained through some articles he just saw on the news before he has to go to his mom's house. He's supposed to have dinner with the Bakugas today, like they always do once a month. Do you guys still visit each other? Kirishima asked Bakugu. No, we haven't since middle school. Bakugu responded. It's nice to see his mom again, even if he just saw her a month ago. It is quite refreshing to see her again after all that has been happening. After defeating Overhaul and rescuing Eri, he just needs a break from all of it, even if it's just a night. He can pretend to not be a hero and just save the day by cooking some katsudon. Wait, who's Overhaul? Zero asked. And who's Eri? Azui asked too. Maybe Midoriya-san is referring to a future event that hasn't happened yet, but it'll happen in the future for us. Yaoyazura informed. Aizawa took out a notebook and jotted something down on it. Nizu looked intrigued but still didn't talk. It looks that we finally have a lead to the future, even if it's small. Nizu thought. Talking about katsudon. Izuka looks at his phone and shoot, it was getting a little bit late before curfew. There were still 3 hours, but he still need to help his mother cook the food. So he needs to get going, or else Aizawa-sensei would be upset at him. He got up and left his room, not bothering to lock the door since, who would even bother entering his room at this hour? Oh sweet Midoriya, that was a fool mistake. Mineta shook his head. I always make sure to lock my room, since one never knows if a pervert is gonna enter. Jiraiya said this as an indirect so not direct to a grape a-hole. I always make sure to close it too. I trust my classmates don't get me wrong, but one day a piece of my clothing disappeared. Yayazura said, blushing a little remembering when his bra vanished from his closet. I wonder who did it. Mineta looked away whistling, because he so not stole Momo's bra. He came down the stairs and exited the dorms. He doesn't know if Kaken is already there, but he assumes he will be there. Izuku enters the train he used to go when he walked to the school from his house, and waited until it arrived its destiny. When he opened the door to his house, he wasn't expecting to be greeted by a delicious aroma that he well knew from all his life. Katsudon. I'm home, Mom, Midoriya exclaimed, closing the door in the process. Midoriya took off his shoes and put them on the carpet. His mother greeted him as well with a, welcome home Izu, how have you been? Izuku smiled, not because he was about to eat his favorite food, but because he missed his mother's greetings. He still talks to her on weekends, but it's nice to hear her voice on person and not through a screen. Todoroki smiled, thinking about the relationship Midoriya and his mother had. He was happy knowing about it. It wasn't only Katsudon it seemed. When he got a closer look to the kitchen he saw clearly more food. Do you need help with that? Midoriya took a glance to the food. He knew his mother was capable, but he liked to help nonetheless. That's sweet Izuku, but I can do it myself. His mom always wanted to do the things by herself. I always offer to help, but she denies it immediately and tells me not to worry. I eyed the plates my mom was about to grab, and she probably detected my glance because she turned around and sighed. You can help me set the table, Izuku. My mom probably knew I wanted to help her and just gave in, a little bit. I smiled and help her while she finishes cooking. I hear a ding by the door and know exactly who is it from. My mom gives me the rest of the plates and she walks to greet the blondes and one brunette that are on the other side of the door. Kaken enters with his parents, Mitsuki and Mizu. Izuku has always liked the company of the two. They are really nice people. Wow, are those your parents, Bakugu? They seem really amazing. Kirishima says. Bakugu just rolled his eyes. The old hag is far from amazing shitty hair. Before he knows it, Izuku is sitting on a chair beside Bakugu, saying itadakimasu, and eating like there's no tomorrow. After all, the katsudon of his mom cannot compare to the food on Lunch Rush. He admits the food is amazing there, but there's nothing like a mother's cooking after all. Everyone is eating in silence when my mom decides to break it. So, how's school? Inko asked. The question is innocent, bland. But Kaken always responds like he has the need to dirty the floor he walks on. Huh? What did you say, shitty Deku? Bakugu yelled at the screen. The students chuckle, knowing what's about to happen. Bakugu signals with his fork to the form of Midoriya. Well, Deku got a confession from a girl yesterday, and the shitty nerd just ran away from the scene. Fing hilarious. He needs to pull that stick out of his butt, or he's never getting a girlfriend like that. He picked a pea from his plate, spilling the little juice it contained from the force of it, and continues to eat like nothing happened. Man, you got no sympathy, Kaken, Kaminari said. Shut up. Bakuga barked, not liking Kaminari calling him like that. Who do you guys think that declared to Midori? Mina said. I don't think it matters since the poor girl was rejected anyways. Shiro said. I stare at him like saying, what's wrong with you? And directing my attention towards my mom. Gladly I don't have to worry about Kaken since his mom, moments later, smacks him in the head, and hard. Poor Katsuki was choking on his food. But I actually don't blame Kaken for avoiding the topic. Since, what the hell, old hag? Katsuki glared at her mother, still coughing a little. I love Bakugu's mom. Kaminari said. I wonder what Midoriya was going to say. Azui, the ever-observant, said. If you stop being a brat, maybe I wouldn't need to smack you. Mitsuki yelled in the same tone as Kaken. You got a confession. Izuku, why didn't you tell me sooner? His mother ignored the yells on the background. Well, I didn't told you before because I knew you would react like that. Izuku says. You always make a big deal out of it, and besides it's embarrassing. It is kinda embarrassing to tell your mom that you ran away from a girl when she confessed to you. Zero said. I knew Mito bro was always shy, but this do make it. Kirishima says to Zero. Midoriya always get flustered with everyone, so it's kind of expected. Jiru said. It's really embarrassing. But that's not why he doesn't tell his mom about these things. The thing is, he's bisexual. There he said it. The students were, well, surprised about this. In fact, they were shocked. They don't know for sure that their Midoriya was like this, but it didn't change the fact that it could be a possibility. Uraraka was the most shocked of all of them though. All Might wasn't expecting that too, neither the other teachers. But they weren't worried at all, since they have cases like this in the past, and they comprehend their students and their personal interests. What's that? Todoroki thought. He was going to make some research later. He has been since, well, forever. Obviously she isn't aware of this fact, none one is either, and he decides to keep it that way. He doesn't have time to relationships anyway. Alas, being a hero doesn't let you have that sort of privileges. I don't know why Midoriya-chan decided to keep it a secret, but even if our Midoriya is like that, it doesn't change anything. Ribbit. Ashui said. Every student agreed on her statement, but Uraraka was still a little lost in thought. Midoriya is right though, us UA students don't have time to have relationships at the moment, even if we have those interests. We are here to train to be a hero, so we don't have time to it. Ida said. Uraraka looked at Ida and sighed, he was right. Even if Deku-kun liked her in some way, they couldn't be together, not until they achieved their goal. Well, it's in me to make a deal out of everything. You know I can't keep my excitement on these things. Inko said. Izuku sighs, I guess you can't. He looks between the Bakugus and his mom and finishes by saying, I can't have that sort of stuff going on with my life anyways. It would sort of just get in the way, I guess. Kaken turns to stare at him for a moment before turning away quickly. He didn't saw his expression because he turned away, but oh well. Bakugo did saw the expression on his face, but didn't say anything about it. I know you can't, sweetie, you are way too focused on heroes. It makes me wonder if you are into that sort of things, but I want to be a grandma. So don't blame me for it. Inko giggles and keeps eating. I finish my meal and wait until the others are finishing too. I glance to my side, and see Kaken munching the meat he was given. Kaken is my childhood friend, but I guess you could say my whole family is a little in love with him. Or well, maybe that's just my mom and dad. Before we were friends, he was just Katsuki. He was always there. I say always, but I guess that's not true. We used to be best friends, but post-kindergarten for reasons having to do with his quirk and my lack thereof, we are now decidedly not. We still reluctantly meet with our parents since they're still close, so we have no other choice but to remain friendly with each other. The students look at Bakugo and wonder if the relationship that this Bakugo and Midoriya had was the same in here. Counting this universe, there have been 2 quirkless Midoriyas already. Yeo Yazura commented. All Might got nervous but didn't let it show. Yes, but we could also assume Midoriya is just a late bloomer, since he's attending UA in this universe. Ida suggested. My dad loves Kaken because he's a boy and my dad barely gets time alone with a man. A parent ally I don't count. He also likes Kaken because he loves camping as well and he'll go climbing mountains with him. My dad tried to take us once, and I cried when my red shoes got mud on them, and my mom was upset all the time because her book got wet. Bakugo bro, you like camping? That's so manly, we should go together sometime too. Kirishima said. Teach, fine, but only because I need a partner. Bakugo yelled at him. When it was time to go home, I said my goodbyes to my mom and the Bakugus. Since Kaken and I were going to the same direction, we had to walk together to the train station. We didn't talk when we were on the train, and we definitely didn't talk on our way to the dorms. I was so tired when I reached to the door leading to my room. Kaken and I barely made it before curfew time. I just turned off the lights and didn't bother changing. Tomorrow we were returning to school. Aizawa-sensei gave us a break today, since we all need it. So I need a lot of energy for the next day. Midoriya fell asleep, not knowing a certain notebook of his was missing. Oh, Uraraka said. Yes, oh indeed. Tokoyami said. The next day in recess, while walking towards the cafeteria through the corridors, I heard some people whispering, and when I turned around, I found the reason for those whispers. Kirishima. I feel bad for him, he must be really heartbroken at the moment. Kirishima seems so depressed, Ojiro said. Yeah, he looks so miserable. Uraraka said. Why are people talking behind his back? Did something happen? Mina asked Yaoyazuru. I don't know, but I hope he's okay. She said. Why do I seem so upset for? Kirishima thought. Kirishima was seating alone in an empty table. I walked to him and call him. Hey, Kirishima, is this seat taken? He turns his face towards me and nods. Yeah, well by you. He chuckles and I seat beside him. I gotta ask, did he tell you he was gonna do it? Midoriya avoids eye contact with him. Because I just figure you guys are close, right? So. Midoriya shakes his head, saying no. Kaken doesn't talk to me about these things. What does Bakugo have to do with Kiri? Kaminari thought aloud. Kirishima turns around, disappointed. We're still cool, right? Yes. We can still talk and, kick it? Midoriya glances Kirishima and laughs. Yes, we are cool. Kirishima smiles. Good. Midoriya eats a carrot for lunch. He wasn't in the mood for the school's food, and thinks about him. I wonder who is this him he's talking about? Mina questioned aloud. I thought I was over him when I wrote my letter, when I said my goodbyes. I meant it, I swear I did. It wasn't even that hard, not really. Not when I thought about how much Kirishima liked him, how much he cared. How could I begrudge Kirishima a first love? Kirishima, who's been sweet and caring to other people. He always put everyone before himself. This person has to be very special to Deku-kun. Uraraka said. But maybe he putted his feelings aside to let Kirishima be happy. Shoji said. That's so manly. Kirishima said, putting his hand into a fist and raising it into the air. I should thank Midobro later. That didn't even happen in our universe, dumbass. Bakugo said to Kirishima. Letting go of Kaken was my way of putting Kirishima first as a friend. But now, sitting here alone with Kirishima, all I can think is, Bakugo Katsuki, I liked you first. By all rights, you were mine. I would have never left you. Not in a million years, not for anything. Yeah. Everyone was not expecting him to be Bakugo of all people. Wait a minute, does Midoriya like Bakugo? That's so unexpected. Kaminari shouted. Well, is not that unexpected to be honest? Jiru said. It totally is. Mina says. The two of them always fight and Midoriya seems so scared of Bakugo. Well, I certainly don't blame him. I would be shitting my breathes if I see his face all day. Kaminari said. Yeah, I honestly don't know how Midoriya does it. Todoroki said bluntly. Don't talk about me like I'm not here. Bakugo said. You're not worried about Midoriya liking you? Shiro asked Bakugo. Why should I be? Bakugo answered. The shitty nerd is going to be sorry if it's even true. He thought. Kirishima is grateful this Midoriya put their friendship first above all. But he thinks he should have thought about his feelings too. But wait, does that mean Kirishima and Mina's sentence got cut by the screen? Thinking these kinds of thoughts, feeling these kinds of feelings, it's more than disloyal. I know that. It's downright traitorous. It makes my soul feel dirty. Kaken and Kirishima have broken up less than 2 days ago, and look at me, how fast I cave. Okay, you have to say this is unexpected. Kaminari said. I don't fight you on this one. Jiru said. I can't believe Kirishima and Bakugo date. Mina said. But they broke up though, Shiro clarified. Kirishima's face was kind of the same as his color. He never have thought of Bakugo in that way, and doesn't know if he will. But he has to admit it, the mere thought of them dating makes him nervous. Bakugo just sat there, having the complete opposite reaction as Kirishima. He wasn't even bothered. How fast I covet. I'm a betrayer of the worst kind, because I'm betraying my own friend, and there's no greater betrayal than that. But what now? What am I supposed to do with all these feelings? I don't think he should think that negative about himself. It's not like he has any control of who he likes. Yaoyazura said. Yeah. I would never think of Midoriya that way. He can't possibly betray me by following his feelings. It's only natural. Kirishima said. I suppose there's only one thing I can do. A day ago in the dorms, in the night I overheard something I shouldn't. I was only on my way to get a banana, really. But when I head over to the kitchen, I heard some people talking. I look around and I see Kaken and Kaminari. They're on the couch. Kaken is busy with his phone. Kaminari is sitting next to him, and he's obviously the one making the conversation. Hey, how are you and Kirishima going on lately? Kaminari nudges Kaken on his arm, a grin on his face. Kaken's being extra quiet, and then, out of nowhere, he looks up from his phone and says, I broke up with him tonight. After dinner. Everyone gasps. Bakugo is the one who broke Kiri's heart. Kaminari shouted. I mean, it was time, he says. His eyes aren't red-rimmed. He hasn't been crying, I don't think. His voice is calm and even. Anyone looking at him would think he was fine. Because Kaken is always fine, even when he's not. I wonder if he has any human emotions. Todoroki said in his monotone voice. You are one to talk. Bakugo yelled back. I don't see why you had to break up, Kaminari says. Just 'cause you're going to be training to be a hero doesn't mean you have to break up. I'm going to be the number one. Bakugo declares. What would be the point? I can't even believe he would say that. The point is, it's Kirishima. Kirishima who loves you more than any person has ever loved a boy. Bakugo rolls his eyes at this. He thinks Kaminari is being dramatic, but he's not. It's true, that's how much Kirishima loves Bakugo. He would never so much as look at another person. I can't have distractions. Bakugo says slowly, like he's explaining this to a 4-year-old kid, and he's a 40-year-old grown-up. Kaminari ignores him. Kirishima would never hold you back from anything. He's not like that. Remember how when you decided to play the drums on the cultural festival? He was your biggest fan. At this, the corners of Kaken's mouth turn down, and Kaminari gets up and flings his arms around his neck. He leans his head back and smiles up at him. I'm fine, he snarls, but he isn't, I know he isn't. It's not too late, you know. You can go over there right now and tell him you changed your mind. Bakugo shakes his head. It's done. He pushes back Kaminari into his seat. Now get the F off me. Kaminari releases him as he chuckles and Bakugo turns off his phone. I'm heading to my room, you should F off too. Bakugo says as he gets up from his seat and starts to leave the room. Midoriya panics and runs up to the stairs, knowing the elevator will give him right away. Everyone is sad about the breakup of their classmates, but maybe some of what Kaminari said is true. They would come back together. Eventually. When lunch is over, I go to my room and I find the first letter I ever wrote, the letter I go back and read every now and then, the only letter from middle school that I haven't tear out. Kaken. Unfortunately, years ago, I fell in love with you. I hate it so much. You're so cruel to me, but my heart aches for you every time we're in the same room. You're powerful, brave, and confident. Everything that a hero has, and I don't. I have always thought this feeling was just simple admiration, but I realized that it was so much deeper than that. Someday, I'd like to tell you face to face how I truly feel for you. P.S. I still love you. I still love you, and that's a really huge problem for me, and it's also a really huge surprise. I swear I didn't know. All this time, I thought I was over it. But how could I get over someone like you? Everyone turns around to see Bakugo, expecting a sort of reaction. But to their surprise, his face still remains unfazed. Oh come on man. A person just declared their love for you. Kaminari said. Exactly. Can you even fake a little of emotion? Mina said. She was really jealous of him right now. Bakugo charms all the attractive people around. Bakugo turned to them and growled, sounding like a rabid dog. That's not what I meant, but okay. Mina said. I sigh and hide it back to its place and return to classes. Later on the day now is when school really begins, with foundational hero studies, with All Might as a teacher, After that the whole class went outside with our typical sports tracksuit, and Aizawa set us loose outside to enjoy the warm sun, since it was free PRD. Mina and I are walking in the track field. She's telling me about a party she went to. I almost got into a fight with this girl who kept saying I was wearing extensions. It's not my fault, my hair is fabulous. As we round the corner for our third lap, I catch Todoroki looking at me. I thought I was imagining it at first, him staring in my direction, but this is the third time. He's playing ultimate frisbee with some of the guys. When we pass them, Todoroki jogs over to us and says, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Mina and I look at each other. "Him or me?" he asks. "Midoriya." Mina puts her arm around my shoulder protectively. "Go ahead. We're listening." "Oh, we have a protective Mina over here," Hagakure says. Todoroki rolls his eyes. "I want to talk to him in private." "Fine," she snaps, and she flounces away. Over her shoulder she looks back at me with wide eyes, like, "What?" I shrug back, like I have no idea. In a low, quiet voice, Todoroki says, "Just so you know, I don't have any STDs." The whole class is silent, but then laughs openly. "OMG Todoroki, who knew you could say those kind of words?" Kaminari wipes the imaginary tear from his eye. Todoroki just blinks, not knowing he could say it himself too. I stare at him blinking, my mouth open. "I never said you had an STD, I said, confused. His voice is still low but actually furious. "I also don't always take the last piece of Pocky." He's a liar. He always takes the last Pocky. Uraraka responds back. "Sorry," Todoroki says. "Nah, it's no problem." Uraraka pats Todoroki's back. "What in the world is he talking? What are you talking about?" "That's what you said. In your letter. How I'm an egotistical guy who goes around giving girls STDs, remember?" Todoroki feels a little hurt his friend wrote about him in that way, but brushes it off. Did Midoriya really wrote something like that to Todoroki? Yaoyazura asked. "Yeah. Why would he write that? He's none of those things." Uraraka says, defending his friend. "What letter? I never wrote you any letter." Izuku said, bewildered. "Yes, I did. I did write him a letter about 1,000,000 years ago. But that's not the letter he's talking about. It couldn't be." "Yes, it could," Shiro said. "Yes. Did? It was addressed to me from you." Midoriya's eyes widen. "Oh God. This isn't happening. This isn't reality. I'm dreaming. I'm in my room and I'm dreaming and Todoroki is in my dream, glaring at me. I close my eyes. Am I dreaming? Is this real? I guarantee you, it is real, my friend." Shoji said. "Midoriya?" I open my eyes. I'm not dreaming and this is real. This is a nightmare. Todoroki Shudo is holding my letter in his hand. It's my handwriting, my envelope, my everything. How did you get that?" I said, getting sick by the minute. "It came in the mail yesterday." Todoroki sighs. Gruffly he says, "Listen, it's no big deal, I just hope you're not going around telling people." "It came in the mail? To your house?" "Yeah, I actually had to be careful. Endeavor almost saw the letter." Todoroki is relieved his old man didn't see that. He'll probably would have make a deal out of nothing. I feel faint. I actually feel faint. Please let me faint right now, because if I faint I will no longer be here, in this moment. It will be like in movies when someone passes out from the horror of it all and the fighting happens while he is asleep and he wakes up in a hospital bed with a bruise or two, but he's missed all the bad stuff. I wish that was my life instead of this. I can feel myself start to sweat. Rapidly I say, "You should know that I wrote that letter a really long time ago." Todoroki blinks and says, "Okay. Like years ago. Years and years ago. I don't even remember what I said." Up close, his face wasn't so much handsome as appealing. "Seriously, that letter is from the beginning at UA. I don't even know who would have sent it. Can I see it?" I reach for the letter, trying to stay calm and not sound desperate. Just casual cool. He hesitates and then grins his perfect Todoroki grin. "I want to keep it. I never got a letter like this before." A lot of girls blush. Todoroki is such a tease. Mina says. Todoroki is still a little lost, But he would want to keep the letter too, even if Midoriya is talking bad about him. I leap forward, and quick like a cat I snatch it out of his hand. Todoroki chuckles and throws up his hands in surrender. All right, fine, have it. Thanks. I start to back away from him. The paper is shaking in my hand. Wait. He hesitates. Listen, I didn't mean to steal your first kiss. I mean, that wasn't my intention. Wait, kiss. All the people in the room scream. Some girls are blushing, turning red at this. Todoroki turns a little pink, but cools off quickly. Did Midoriya and Kaminari turns to Todoroki. Todoroki kissed? Like kiss, the act of literal kissing. Yes, Kaminari, do we have to spell it to you? Jairu said, but she felt surprised too. It's just that it doesn't make sense. Todoroki kinda has the vibes of being a cold guy and, well, Midoriya gets all red like a strawberry when talking about just holding hands. Kaminari says. Uraraka felt a little jealous? Hurt hearing this. Todoroki didn't know why did the other him would kiss Midoriya. Just like that. I laugh, a forced and fake laugh that sounds crazy even to my own ears. People turn around and look at us. Apology accepted. Ancient history. And then I bolt. I run faster than I've ever run, even faster when I use 5%. All the way to the boys' locker room. How did this even happen? I sink to the floor. And then, because there's nothing left for me to do, I take the letter out of the envelope and I read it. I don't want to make a lot of interventions on the letter, so I'll write some reactions later. Dear Shido, just so you know, Todoroki sounds like the name of an old man with a long white beard. Did you know that when you kissed me, I would come to love you? Sometimes I think yes. Definitely yes. You know why? Because you think everyone loves you, Todoroki. That's what I hate about you. Because everyone does love you. Including me. I did. Not anymore. Did Midoriya thinks that way, about me? Todoroki thought. Auk. Shiro says while others shush him. Here are all your worst qualities. You always are staring at people with that icy stare of yours, like if just by glaring at them they would just freeze, and you don't even say excuse me. Like, excuse you. You just assume everyone else will find it charming. And if they don't, who cares, right? You do care. You care a lot about what people think of you. Todoroki hung his head down. You always take the last piece of Pocky. You never ask if anyone else wants it. That's rude. That's kinda rude, man. Kaminari says to Todoroki, but Jairu then hit him with one of her plugs. You're so good at everything. Too good. You could have given other guys a chance to be good, but you never did. You kissed me for no reason. Even though I knew you liked Yaoyazura, and you knew you liked Yaoyazura, and Yaoyazura knew you liked her. But you still did it. Just because you could. I really want to know, why would you do that to me? My first kiss was supposed to be something special. Yaoyazura blushed a little, but it went as quickly as it appeared. She was wondering if Midoriya was fine. Todoroki's face remained serious. I've read about it, what it's supposed to feel like. Fireworks and lightning bolts and the sound of waves crashing in your ears. I didn't have any of that. Thanks to you, it was as unspecial as a kiss could be. Kissing you was like as if I crashed my lips with a 3-flavor ice pop. Cherry, white lemon and blue raspberry flavored water ice. To be more specific. And no, that's not supposed to sound good. It does sound good though. Mina pouted. The worst part of it is, that stupid nothing kiss is what made me start liking you. I never did before. I never even thought about you before. Mina has always said that you are the best looking boy in our grade, and I agreed because sure, you are. But I still didn't see the allure of you. Plenty of people are good looking. That doesn't make them interesting or intriguing or cool. Maybe that's why you kissed me. To do mind control on me, to make me see you that way. It worked. Your little trick worked. From then on I saw you. Up close, your face wasn't so much handsome as appealing. How many appealing boys have you ever seen? For me it was just one. I think it's a lot to do with your lashes. You have really long lashes. Unfairly long. Todoroki brought a hand to his face. Are they really that long? Even though you don't deserve it, fine, I'll go into all the things I liked about you. One time in modern hero art history, Nobody wanted to be partners with Mineta, and you volunteered like it was no big deal. Suddenly everybody thought Mineta wasn't so bad. Some people snickered at that. You're still in chorus, even though most people don't do it. You even sing solos. And you dance, and you're not embarrassed. After you kissed me, I liked you for 2 whole months. It hasn't been as easy, watching you with Yao Yazura, holding hands and making out in public. You probably make her feel very special. Because that's your talent, right? You're good at making people feel special. Todoroki looked guilty, but not many people noticed that. Do you know what it's like to like someone so much you can't stand it and know that they'll never feel the same way? Probably not. People like you don't have to suffer through those kind of things. It was easier after Yao Yazura moved and we stopped being friends. At least then I didn't have to hear about it. Midoriya. Yao Yazura said. And now that the month is almost over, and is about to begin the sports festival, I know for sure that I am also over you. I'm immune to you now, Shudo. I'm really proud to say that I'm the only person in this school who has been immunized to the charms of Todoroki Shudo. All because I had a really bad dose of you at the beginning of the year. Now I never ever have to worry about catching you again. What a relief. I bet if I did ever kiss you again, I would definitely catch something, and it wouldn't be love. It would be an STD. Midoriya Izuku. That was actually quite funny. A lot of people was staring daggers at Kaminari. Not the whole Midoriya burning Todoroki thing, of course. Kaminari said, rubbing his neck. Why did I have to bring up that kiss? But I still remember everything about that day at Kaminari's house. We were in the basement, and it smelled like mildew and laundry detergent. I was wearing white shorts and a blue and white iris print shirt. It was one of our first boy-girl hangouts on a weekend and at night. That was a weird thing too, because it felt purposeful. Not the same as going over to Kaken's house after school, that's for sure. Also not the same as going to the arcade at the mall knowing we would probably run into a lot of girls on our way. This was making a plan, getting dropped off, wearing new clothes, all on a Saturday night. No parents around, just us in Kaminari's ultra-private basement. Kaminari's parents were supposed to be watching us, but Kaminari paid them $10 to each to stay in their room. Not that anything exciting happened, for instance an impromptu game of spin the bottle or 7 minutes in heaven, 2 possibilities for which the girls had prepared for with gum and lip gloss. All that happened was the boys played video games and the girls watched and played on our phones and whispered to each other. And then people's moms and dads were picking them up, and it was so anticlimactic after all that planning and anticipation. It was disappointing for me, not because I liked anyone, but because I was hoping something exciting would happen to someone. Something did. To me. Todoroki and I were downstairs alone, the last 2 people to be picked up. We were sitting on the couch. I kept texting my mom, "Where are you?" Todoroki was playing a game on his phone. And then, out of nowhere, he said, "Your hair smells like coconuts." Real smooth, Todoroki. Shiro said sarcastically. We weren't even sitting that close. I said, "Really? You can smell it from there?" He scooted closer and took a sniff, nodding. "Yeah, it reminds me of Hawaii." "Thanks," I said. I wasn't positive it was a compliment, but it seemed like enough of one to say thanks. I've been suching between this coconut one and my mom's shampoo, to do an experiment on which makes my hair. Then Todoroki leaned right in and kissed me, and I was stunned. I'd never thought of him any kind of way before that kiss. He was too pretty, too smooth. Not my type at all. Todoroki blushed at the compliment. But after he kissed me, he was all I could think about for months after. For the last time I said no. Aizawa glanced to the students who were interrupting his sleeping time. "Come on, Aizawa-sensei. It's still early." Mina whined. She wanted to watch another Universes, after all she hasn't seen her other selves yet. So she wasn't sleeping until then. Aizawa just turned around, not caring about the students' complaints. "Don't worry, students. There's still tomorrow for now. How about you go to sleep?" All Might flashed a grin and a thumbs up. The students groaned but complained. They entered to the dorms, Aizawa following behind. Since Midoriya missed the Universes while he was attached and asleep by Hatsume's machine, the other students filled him in about what he didn't get to see. Midoriya flushed red at the last universe they told him though. He bowed to Todoroki about how sorry he was, but Todoroki said, "It's fine, it wasn't you who said those things anyway," so Midoriya sighed in relieved at that. Mina tried to bust into Midoriya's room, but Ida stopped her to do so. Midoriya swore to Mina he didn't have any notebook like the one she was telling him about, but Mina didn't believe him a single thing. The next day, both classes came in livelier than usual. They were excited to see what Izuku's and Todoroki's other selves were up to, as well as their other selves. "Nizu-san, do I have to see that?" Midoriya saw Hatsume's machine and gulped. "That place again." Nizu chuckled. "For the time being, how about you take a seat this time? Midoriya-san. Todoroki-san will be taking your place for today. I'm sure he won't mind rotating seats with you, am I right?" He glanced at Todoroki to look for confirmation. Todoroki just blinked a few times before nodding and heading to the odd machine of May. Midoriya glanced at Todoroki once, blushing furiously before taking his seat, an action that didn't go unnoticed by Uraraka. All Might won't be joining us today, he has a few things he has to deal with. Aizawa breathed out as he made himself comfy in the back. "Go ahead and play the next universe," Aizawa said with a yawn before falling asleep. Hatsume blinked at him before smiling and pressing play. The plan was simple. Attend classes, fake your way through therapy, and check all the boxes so you can get the hell out of here. That sounds like Todoroki? Wow, I never heard him cuss before. Kaminari said. Todoroki Shudo repeated that mantra to himself as he looked around his small cell. White brick wall, vomit-colored tile floor, a dresser, and a ratty-looking bed. Awful. Yeah, the place looks gross. Jairu said with a vomit-fake expression. Yui's psychiatric hospital. This was no hospital. It was a madhouse that Shudo was determined to get out of. He brought a hand up to his face and traced his newly formed scar. It was rough and unsightly. This only irritated Shudo more as he slammed his hand on the dresser. He needed to get out of here and make that old man pay. Is it bad that I thought his scar was part of his quirk? Kaminari said as he raised his hand hesitantly, and for that he was promptly whacked by Jiro. I never thought I would see the day Yude was a hospital rather than a school. Yayazura said in wonder. That's just a way of saying asylum, ponytail. Bakugu said. Hey Kaken, don't be mean. Midoriya said. Shut up, shitty nerd. I didn't ask you. Bakugu answered back. Attend classes, fake your way through therapy, and check all the boxes so you can get the hell out of here. Shudo repeated this mantra in his head as he walked out of his cell and out into the common area. He was given a brief tour of the facility last night when he arrived, as well as his schedule. He was expected to attend classes in the morning and part of the afternoon, attend individual therapy afterwards, and then rot in his cell until the next day. Another stab to his pride was the fact that he had to wait for staff to gather the other people on his unit and then they all had to walk together to class like they were a herd of cattle. It's starting to look more like prison to me, Ciro said. The brooding teen watches from the corner of the common area as a large, white-haired male who has no business being so muscular screams into each bedroom that they needed to be dressed yesterday. Shudo thinks the guy's name is Mad King. Bad King? What? It doesn't matter. Shudo doesn't need to learn anyone's name since he will not be here long. That's true, Todoroki can whoop the guard's buttes in a second. Ciro said, doing fake punches in the air. Yeah. All he has to do is use his quirk if he wants to escape so bad. Kaminari said. Does he plan in escaping? Uraraka gasped. I don't think so. I mean, how would he manage to get out of a place like UA to begin with? Midoriya said. Besides, I am starting to believe this universe doesn't have any quirks. They don't? How do you know? Mina said. Yaoyazura coughed lightly. Well, for starters, leaving behind the absence in mention of quirks, Todoroki-kun hasn't used his quirk to try to escape, and the guards in the hospital didn't bother to cuff him with anti-quirk cuffs. She said, responding for Midoriya. Now that you are saying it, that's true. All of the patients that I have seen didn't have any cuffs on them, so that means your theory is right, Yayazura-san, Ida said. One by one, teens emerge from their cells and start to form a line. They seem to ignore Shudo, which is fine by him. However, one boy with wild green hair and a freckle face smiles and waves at Shudo before quickly turning around. Hopefully that will be the last interaction from that guy. Shudo didn't come here to make friends. He didn't even want to be here at all. Deku-kun, that's you. You look so cute in this universe. Uraraka said. Emmy? Oh, that's thanks Yuri Uraraka. Midoriya was a stuttering mess. It was his first time a girl complimented him. But on the other hand, his mind wandered off to Todoroki. Midoriya frowned. The look that Todoroki had on his eyes didn't suit him at all. The half-and-half boy was starting to become a friend of his, so he was not happy that this Todoroki was like that. He wanted to help him, like he did on the sports festival. But since it was another universe, he could only watch and hope his other self could help Todoroki in any way. If he didn't want to be here at all, what is he in for? Kirishima says, thinking about what Todoroki said. I want to know too. But I guess we have to keep watching. Hagakure said. Attend classes, fake your way through therapy, and check all the boxes so you can get the hell out of here. I'm starting to think about this mantra of his rib bit. Azui said. I don't think anyone can't fake their way through therapy, and in you at a no less. Ida said, agreeing with Azui. Once all the patients in the building had been herded, they made their way to the first floor where all the classes would be held. Shudo had classes in room 1A along with some people from his floor, as well other random people Shudo didn't care to know. Shudo made his way to the back of the room and took a seat next to a girl with pink hair. He wondered how many other patients had pink at this facility. That's Imi. Mina shouted, finally happy to see his other self, even if her other self finded herself in a mental hospital. It's kinda weird to see you without horns. Jiru said. The other Mina on the screen had normal skin. His skin was not pink like the other Mina at all. Shudo was pulled out of his thoughts when a hand slammed down on his desk. Shudo blinked up at the dark blue hair and annoying face that was glaring at him. He thinks his name was Tanya? Or Tinya? Tenya? It really doesn't matter. Excuse me, annoying? Ida exclaimed. Don't take it personal, Ida-kun. Uraraka putted a hand in Ida's shoulder. Why is Ida's other self so pressed? Todoroki hasn't done anything. Kaminari said. Bakuga grinned, already knowing what is going to happen next. How dare you put your feet on her seat? You can't just sit wherever you please. Do you think you can do what you please? So it was that. Kaminari said, already preparing his ears to hear Ida's scolding. Todoroki glanced at his own feet and sure, they were on the tip of the desk of a girl in front of him. But the boy is clearly over-exaggerating. Tenya turned towards the girl who I was in front of him for backup. Uraraka, are you hearing this? He's disrespecting us. This criminal act should not go unpunished. Ida, you should relax, it's his first day after all. Uraraka said to the other Ida on the screen. Uraraka apparently turned to the boys and gave a sheepish grin. It's okay, Ida-kun, give him a break, it's his first day after all. Uraraka talked calmly to the other obnoxious boy. Midoriya turned to see Uraraka, with a curious expression on his features. Did you know she would say that? He asked her. I didn't, but she's my other self, right? She thinks the same way I do. Uraraka responded with a sheepish grin similar to the one on the screen. That could change, you know? Not all the persons on the other universes are going to be the same as our counterparts. Kirishima said. Even so, he should know the proper. Shudo raised his arm and then slammed his elbow down on Tenya's hand which was still on the table. The teen held his injured hand and screamed in pain. That looks like it hurt. Ojiro said. No kidding. Hagakure said looking the way Ida screamed through the screen. Uraraka stood up and embraced the teen in concern. Ida-kun. Are you okay? I think you went too far. Shudo didn't know who she was referring to on her last statement, but he supposed he was talking about the other boy. Uraraka. Ida. Take a seat. It's way too early to be dealing with your shenanigans, their teacher said with an exasperated sigh. She was a tall woman with long curly blonde hair. Who is that lady? She looks hot. Mineta drooled along with Kaminari. Ida held his injured hand and took a seat on the other side of Uraraka. Honestly, why was he making such a big deal out of this chair when he still got to sit near his overly bubbly friend? He was clearly obsessive. Anyway, the woman flips her hair and points to herself. I'm Takayama-sensei and I'm only introducing myself because we have a new person here today. Y'all can get to know him on your own time. For the next hour it's gonna be you, me, and algebra. The class groaned, except for that green-haired kid who raised his hand. Takayama-sensei glared at the kid. No, Midoriya, I'm not interested in the origins of algebra. Midoriya lowered his hand and even though Shudo couldn't see his face, he could tell the boy was pouting. Such a nerd. Bakugo huffed. One excruciating hour, the kids got their first break of the day. The other kids talk amongst themselves and Shudo plans on taking a power nap. Before he can lay his head on the desk, that Midoriya kid walks towards Shudo. When he's in front of Shudo's desk, he stretches out his arm and smiles brightly. Hi there, I'm Midoriya Izuku. It's nice to meet you. Shudo looks at Midoriya's hand and then stares blankly at his face. Moments pass after a minute of the two just staring at each other, and Midoriya still doesn't get the memo that he wants to be left alone. Yeah, knowing him, he isn't leaving him alone any moment now. Kirishima said, glancing to their Midoriya who had a determinate look on his eyes. Midoriya keeps his smile intact, but retracts his hand. What's your name? Shudo rolled his eyes. The sooner he could end this needless conversation, the sooner he could take a nap. Todoroki Shuto. Todoroki-kun. Appealing. I mean that's a appealing name. It's nice to meet you, the greenette chuckled awkwardly. Midoriya blushed a little. How could his other self be so bold? He could barely talk to Uraraka close without going a little red sometimes. You already said that. Sorry. Midoriya took a deep breath and gave Shuto another brilliant smile. I wanted to let you know about my club. It's called the Happy Club and we meet every weekday after classes are over. You can drop in whenever you want. We meet in classroom 1B and I'd love for you to join. Happy Club? That sounds lame. Bakugo said. Well, I think it sounds amazing, Deku-kun. Uraraka said, defending Midoriya. Thanks, Uraraka-san, Midoriya answered. Shudo raised an eyebrow. The Happy Club? The greenette nodded enthusiastically. Why is it called that? You'll have to come to the club meeting to find out. The greenette responded with a wink, going to his seat. Shudo didn't really understand what was different that interested him about the other. Maybe it was because the boy was smaller than the rest of them? Midoriya took a glance at himself. Am I that small? He supposed his 5 feet 6 inches was nothing compared to Todoroki's 5 feet 9 inches, but the height that the other Midoriya in the screen had was almost like his middle school self 5, or that he was always smiling despite being in a mental hospital. In any case, Shudo thought about joining this club. It might work in his favor by showing the staff that he's interested in making amends and doing any activity to improve himself. Yeah, adults love to see that kind of bullshit. The plan was simple. Attend classes, join a club, fake your way through therapy, and check all the boxes so you can get the hell out of here. Shudo found a mostly empty table in the cafeteria and decided that would be a safe place to sit. It had been a long and boring morning. Lost in his own world of stabbing his rice and thinking of Takayama-sensei as a cow, he didn't notice the greenette standing on the opposite side of his table. Can I sit here? Shudo made a non-committal noise which was all the greenette needed here. He plopped down and began shoveling food into his mouth. Todoroki-kun, I hope you didn't mind Ida-kun this morning, he's always like that. But he's a really cool guy actually. You just have to get to know him. Midoriya said with a smile. Him smiling that warmly should be illegal. Hearing Todoroki saying things like that, all thought it was probably unconsciously. Made Midoriya's heart warm for some reason. Uraraka saw Midoriya smile a little to the Todoroki on the screen and frowned. Anyway, most people here are alright. Like, you see the girl with the dark green hair over there? Shudo followed Midoriya's gaze and saw said girl sitting with both feet on her chair and sticking her tongue in and out of her mouth, trying to eat a fly. Shudo turned back to Midoriya wanting to know why he had to witness that. The other students weren't affected by this, since they have seen Ajui's quirk in action. That's Ajui-san, but she likes to be called Froppy. She doesn't talk much because she thinks she's a frog, but she's nice. Shudo gave another non-committal grunt. He still didn't know why he had to look at Frog Girl. And just how many people here have green hair? And you've met Uraraka-san. She lives on the 3rd floor of our building. Uraraka usually hangs out with Ida and me, but we don't really have anything in common with Ida-kun, haha. It makes you wonder how we even became friends in the first place. Midoriya took a breath and looked at Shudo. Was he expecting a response? Not knowing how to respond, he simply waited for Midoriya to keep talking. The greenette beamed. Yeah, Ida-kun is alright, I guess, but it's just hard to talk to him because he somehow takes the conversation back to rules and stuff like that. It's like, you could be eating ice cream and suddenly he throws it from your hands with the excuse that, sorry Midoriya-kun, but it's low in nutrients, high in added sugar and calories. Or, it could give you a heart attack. You know, and with all those hand chops he does, it's exhausting. Half of the students laughed at Midoriya's rambling. Well, I happen to agree with my counterpart. We should have a proper food dash. Ida was stopped by Ojiro's tail. Shudo choked on his rice. He wasn't expecting such a detailed impression of Ida. His reaction caused Midoriya to laugh, and that was a heavenly sound. They spent the rest of their lunch PRD with Midoriya talking about whatever popped into his mind, unfiltered, and Shudo surprisingly listening to the boy, but never giving a response. Shudo thinks to himself that Midoriya is alright. Midoriya was finally relieved. It seems he didn't have to worry for Todoroki after all. His other self was there to help him, and he seemed to have it under control. With classes done for the day, it was now time for what Shudo was dreading the most. Therapy. He absolutely did not want to participate in this pointless activity. He didn't need therapy. There was nothing wrong with him. I am starting to get curious as to why is he there. Did he rob a bank? Oh, or maybe he dash. Mina was interrupted by Yayazura. We shouldn't think the worst case scenario. Maybe he's there by mistake. Yayazura tried to reason. Shudo shook his head and begrudgingly made his way down to the corridor where the therapists were located with a staff member leading the way. He just needed to stick to his plan. Just tell the therapist what they want to hear and then he'll be one step closer to leaving. The staff opened the door for Shudo and then guided the other patients to their therapist. When Shudo entered the room, he was met with a dark purple-haired, blue-eyed woman who was wearing an extremely revealing black dress. Is this how all therapists dress? He did like her cat eye glasses though. He wished he could be playing with a cat rather than being stuck here in therapy. Midnight Sensei. Every student shouted, recognizing their teacher on the screen. If Todoroki doesn't want the therapy, maybe I could dash. Mineta's drooling was interrupted by Jairu whacking him. Ah, you must be Todoroki Shudo. Please, have a seat. The room was small and only had 2 chairs in the middle of the room, a desk in the corner, and way too many dusty, fake plants. Shudo sat down on the chair closest to the door and the woman sat in the other chair facing him. Oh, right, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Kiyama Namuri and I'll be your therapist, she said with a grin. It's only been a few seconds, but Shudo is already over this. Well, aren't you a cutie? Have you ever been to therapy before? She asked, still grinning idiotically. Obviously not. Do all therapists wear clothes that are 2 sizes too small? There was twitch in Kiyama's eye, grin faltering. You're a cheeky one, aren't you? Kiyama cleared her throat and pressed on. Since this is your first time in therapy, I wanted to go over some rules with you. First and foremost, everything you say to me will remain confidential. I want you to feel comfortable talking to me without fear of repercussions. With that being said though, I will have to break confidentiality if you tell me you plan to hurt yourself or someone else. I'll only give minimal information to the proper authorities though, but that is something you need to know. How do you feel about that? Shudo crossed his arms and leaned back in his seat. So I just need to keep all murderous thoughts to myself? Got it. Todoroki is on fruit. Who knew he could be so sassy? Kaminari said. Todoroki. No, this is pointless. I don't need to be here. I'm not crazy. Kiyama had the nerve to act innocent. I never said you were crazy. Shudo rolled his eyes. She didn't need to say it. He knew she thought he was insane. Isn't this why his parents threw him in this dump? Wait, Endeavor and his mother put Todoroki-kun in there? Why would they do that to his son? Uraraka asked. Todoroki, I want you to understand that therapy isn't magic. It takes active work in order to benefit you. You'll only get something out of this if you're willing to do the work. And it won't be a quick fix either. It's going to take some time, but if you're patient and put forth an effort in your treatment, then I'm sure. Are you done? Shuto interrupted. How long is this session supposed to last? There's that eye twitch again. We have an hour together. Why don't we get to cow each other a little better? I'll go first. Shuto stood up immediately. That won't be necessary. I'll go first. And with that, Shuto exited the room and slammed the door behind him. He was not about to waste an hour of his life getting to know his therapist. How was talking about nothing supposed to help him? Therapy is bullshit. Bakugu said, agreeing with Todoroki. Don't disrespect the therapist profession, Bakugu-san. Ida exclaimed with his hand chop. Todoroki doesn't seem fond of it, but I however respect their job. The boy stomped his way through the hallway wanting to punch something. He passed classroom 1B and backstepped in front of the classroom door. Wasn't Midoriya holding a club meeting? He may have screwed up with therapy, but maybe he can make up points by going to this club meeting. He opened the door and peeked his head in the classroom. There he saw Midoriya talking nonstop to a brunette, and at the back of the room was what it looked like a black-hair male who hasn't slept in years. And I only got to watch one episode before Kakin changed the channel. It looked like such a good show too. I missed the beginning of the episode, so I don't even know the name of the series, but I know the main character's name is Toru and her friends turn into animals when they're hugged by someone of the opposite gender. What's really annoying is Kakin wasn't even watching TV. He just didn't want me to watch my show. Yamada didn't even listen to me when Midoriya, you've got company, Uraraka said. Huh. Midoriya turned his head and his eyes lit up when he spotted Shuto standing in the doorway. You actually came, he all but screamed as he ran to Shuto and gestured for him to come all the way inside the room. Am I late? The club meeting over? Shuto asked as he noticed no one else was in the room beside the girl with the round face and the hobo in the back. Aizawa-sensei. That's you in the back. Mina said, gesturing to Aizawa. Aizawa opened one eye, before growling and going back to sleep. Midoriya laughed nervously and said, actually you're the only one here, me and Uraraka here dash. Midoriya gestured over Uraraka's small figure. She smiled and waved in return. We're waiting for Ida-kun to arrive, but it looks like he won't make it though. But you're our first club member that has joined in for a while. Shuto raised an eyebrow. How can you have a club with just 3 people? Midoriya looked back at Uraraka, who simply shrugged. The greenette then ran over to a bookshelf and grabbed a bag of confetti. Welcome to the happy club, Todoroki-gun. Midoriya screamed as he threw the confetti in the air. You're cleaning that up, kid, the man in the back grumbled. Midoriya chuckled nervously. By the way, this is Aizawa. Midoriya signaled over the man who looked dead in the corner. He's not a teacher here though. He used to teach at a high school but he got laid off, so now he works as a staff member in our building. He usually gets assigned to work on our floor. He's really nice. Shuto glanced at Aizawa, who looked like a disgruntled cat. He does look like a cat, Bajiro said in thought. Doubtful. No, really, Midoriya waved his hands frantically. He's a lot nicer than he looks. He's the only one who volunteered to supervise our club. Aizawa-sensei is really kind. I wish I had a teacher like him when I was in school, then maybe. Midoriya shook his head and gave another blinding smile. I'm glad you're here, Todoroki-kun. Why do you guys think happened to this Midoriya? That pause he made at the end was really suspicious. Jiru said. No idea, maybe some kind of accident? Shoji suggested. What do you think, Deku-kun? What could have happened to your other self? Uraraka asked him. I have no clue, I didn't have any problems in my old school, so I wouldn't know. Midoriya shrugged, leaving behind the sludge accident and meeting All Might. Right. Shuto sat down and Midoriya took a seat next to him, and Uraraka following moments later took a seat right next to Todoroki. How old are you, Todoroki-kun? Uraraka asked, her eyes gleaming in curiosity. I'm 17. We're the same age as well, the brunette giggled. So this versions of ourselves are older? Midoriya asked. Looks like it. Alt hot, I could swear this Midoriya was around 15. Kirishima said. I agree, he looks younger than Midoriya himself. Ida said. Shudo was a little shocked. He could have sworn this kid was so small and he looked like he was drowning in his clothes. And that bubbly personality. It was like he was the sunshine personified. How can someone be that happy all the time? Midoriya must be insane. He's probably the most dangerous person in this facility. He had to ask. His curiosity was getting the better of him. Just what exactly are you in for? The moment of the truth, guys. I have wanted to know what he was in for too. Hagakure said. Midoriya hummed to himself while tapping his chin. When it looked like he thought of an answer, his eyes darkened and he leaned close to Shudo. Not telling. He glimpsed Izuku's fingers zip across his mouth. I knew it was his sort of telling my mouth is closed kinda gesture, and then he leaned back to his seat. Come on. I was dying to know. Hagakure said. I wonder why he close off Todoroki-kun like that. Midoriya thought aloud. Unless his reason for being in the hospital is serious. Then he understands his reason for not saying it. Maybe Midoriya is still affected by his past. That's why he didn't told him. Kirishima said. Shudo's face deflated. Oh. Todoroki wasn't gonna lie, he was kind of disappointed. He was curious as to why a boy like him was in a demented place like this. Well, Uraraka was in the same boat, he guessed. Neither of them looked like the type of persons to be in this shitty place. Todoroki looked at Uraraka straight in the eyes. And you? The brunette laughed nervously. It's not something I'm proud of, but... She took a deep breath. I had an eating disorder a while ago. I was sent here to recover. I'm much better now, that's for sure. She chuckled awkwardly. Some of the students looked at their Uraraka in sympathy. Todoroki nodded in understanding. He didn't know what she went through, but could understand a little of her pain. Aizawa stood up, grabbing the three teens' attention. If you need me, wake me up, Aizawa said before unceremoniously throwing himself into the sleeping bag next to the desk. A few seconds later, the man was out like a light. Is it really okay for him to be sleeping? Shudo asked. We would never do anything to betray Aizawa-sensei's trust. You wouldn't either, right? Midoriya asked, tilting his head a little. Shudo contemplated for a moment. It wouldn't do him any favors to misbehave. Besides, the look Midoriya was giving him made it impossible to deny him. Right. Midoriya looked satisfied with that answer, and that made Shudo feel something. Anyway, I was promised a backstory to your club name. Oh yeah. Midoriya's cheeks suddenly had a light pink tint to them, and that sight was nice? Midoriya flushed red, even his ears were a little pink. He was wondering why has Todoroki been compliment him. Well, not him exactly, his other self. Well, but still it felt good, knowing he thinks nice of him, that way. Well, it was originally supposed to be called the Purple Heart Club. Ida of course discarded the idea, but we came up with another name while we were eating a Happy Meal from McDonald's that Aizawa-sensei brought us from downtown, so, yeah. The burgers are amazing there. So even Ida didn't protest it any further on that. Midoriya tapped his finger on his chin, lost in his own world. If we were in regular high school, there would be clubs we could join, right? I thought I could bring so normalcy here by starting this club. In this club, we can do activities that bring us happiness. Midoriya's eyes sparkled at his own long-winded explanation. Uraraka was nodding along Midoriya's own explanation. They named the club because of a Happy Meal? Jiru laughed. So, you named the club after a burger? Shudo deadpanned. Yeah. Midoriya hung his head in embarrassment. Shudo looked around the room, debating whether or not he should bail while he still can. Do you have any games or activities you want to do? The brunette asked sheepishly. No. Oh. Do you want to play a card game with us? Midoriya smiled shyly. Uraraka holding a card game on his hand, almost shoving it in front of Shudo's face. Shudo thought about his options. Either go back to his cell and stare at the ceiling or play a game with this possibly criminally insane teen. Sure. Midoriya's face lit up at that response. Alright, we'll teach you a really fun game, Todoroki-kun. And that's how Shudo spent his first meeting of the Happy Club, playing a card game with a possible killer and his bubbly sidekick. Hi, sorry for not posting for a while. I have been super busy lately, but since school break is around the corner I have a bit of more free time. I honestly wasn't planning on continuing this FIC, but some comments motivated me to finish it. If you have any suggestions, I'll consider them with all my heart and create a new universe on the. I'm planning on posting one this week. It was already finished, but I haven't write the reactions of the character, so that's why I didn't post it. You can suggest smut too, although I'll have to put a warning on the beginning, haha. But I'm putting the smut until the 20 or 39 chapter BC. Imagine how awkward it will be if Tadu and Mito see that while still being friends, so I'll write smut at some point, but not at the moment. That doesn't mean you can't suggest any kind of smut, though it has to be vanilla smut nothing extreme. There's a part 2 of the last universe, right? Mina asked. She didn't want to leave it at such a good cliffhanger. Who knows? Hatsum shrugged. My baby projects the universes that it deems fit. So I rather not question it. Aizawa rolls his eyes. Hatsum, how about you play the next universe? Hatsum blinked dumbly at him. Aizawa's eyes narrowed further. Like about right now? Hatsum smiled, oh sure thing. And proceed to press buttons at her machine. The screen turned black, before coming to life once again. The students got out of the bus. The sound of footsteps and animated conversations filled the air as students marched. Class 1A arrives at the exam site, Takoba National Stadium. Wait, I know this place. This is where the Provisional Hero License exam are made. Midoriya commented, excited that there was the possibility to see some hero action. Yeah, I was wondering when we were going to be doing it too. Uraraka said and then coughed quickly. I mean, the exam and stuff, I'm curious, aren't you guys? I want to have my provisional license as soon as possible. She did some punches to the air while Midoriya dodged them, and then she grinned. I can't wait. What do you mean by provisional license? Mineta asked. Midoriya tilted his head. Oh, you didn't know? You have to take an exam to be allowed to go into the field. A lot of pro heroes have to do it, it's mandatory. Aizawa sighed. Midoriya is right, I was going to tell you more about it in a few months to come. But it seems that this universe will provide you more knowledge before going into the exam. The day of the Provisional Hero License exam has come. Held twice a year, the Provisional Hero License exam was an especially designed event. Its main purpose being for students to earn certificates for emergency hero work. Usually, the test takers consisted of second and some third-year Hero Corps students, but this exam was definitely going to be different. Shudo looks through the crowd of other students among him, who are here to take the provisional exam as well as his group. Hold up, does that mean that we're going to be doing that thing in a few months? Zero asked with shaky hands signaling the screen. I'm confused too, didn't the Todoroki on the screen said it was supposed to be for second and third year students? Jiro interrogated Aizawa-sensei. Aizawa sighed for the third time. Since the League of Villains is being more active, we decided that it was for the best that you could carry your own license. Just in case. Of course, you still have to be with a pro hero in supervision, but you can use your quirk without any repercussion. He assured. Just for security measures. All schools, huh? Todoroki mumbled. That's right, we'll be fighting against other schools to pass. In our class case as first years, we're accelerating the process of getting them. They say there are very few first years in the country trying to get their provisional licenses. So in other words, the test will have those who've trained longer than us, with quirks we don't know about that they've polished up until now. Thanks for the vote of confidence, my friend. Kaminari said in pure sarcasm. I don't like Todoroki's point of view. He's so pessimist I might die. Zero grabbed his hair in pain. True, he makes it sound like we might not even pass the first round. Kirishima agreed. Yeah, we have like 50% probabilities to pass the exam. That's something, don't you guys think? Everyone nodded in return at Yayarose's attempt of cheering the class. The provisional exam has a 50% fail rate. It's not going to be easy for any of us. Todoroki thought in bitterness. Is as if he can hear us or something. Mineta exclaimed in horror. I don't think he is hearing us though. Kaminari reassured him. Right? He turned to Hatsum, who just shrugged in return. But he'll get the license, he doesn't care who he has to crush. He'll just have to overcome whoever gets in his way. He won't let anyone beat him. Shudo glanced at his left hand. I'll get my provisional exam by just using my right side, just like I did on the sports festivals. This sounds just like the old Roki here. Siro said in nervousness. I'm starting to think that the old Roki there has always stayed like that in the other universe. Mina trailed off. The students glanced with worry at the screen, wondering what went wrong to Todoroki. All right. A voice croaked out from the 24 gathered students. Aizawa Shota gathered his students' attention before their excitement could build up. If you can pass this test and get your provisional licenses, then you novice eggs will become chicks. You'll hatch into semi-pros. Aizawa continued, his class paying rapt attention to his words. Do your best. All right, I'll become a chick, grinned Kaminari with a fist pumped up. Let's all call out the usual. Kirishima declared as a student in the back watched with passionate interest. Ready, set. His classmates huddled together to excitedly scream their school motto. Plus. Ultra. A loud voice suddenly pumped with passion interrupted, catching the attention of Class 1A. Turning their heads, it did not take long for them to find the intruder, since he was standing at the very center of their group. He loomed over them with a wide smile and a fist raised in the air. I'm impressed by that boy's height. He's truly a monster. I'm barely 6 feet 0 inches. Kaminari remarked in terror. Forget about his height. Look at his uniform. Jiro voiced most of people's thoughts. Shiketsu height. Almost everyone in the room knew that uniform. The student wore a uniform unlike any they'd ever seen. It was sleek and back, with matching cap bearing a solid gold plate engraved with the letter US. With the sharp uniform and buzz-cut hair, his appearance was like that of a military officer. He was very tall and well-built student with buzzed, dark brown hair and black eyes. You shouldn't just barge in on other people's huddles, Inesa. A slanted-eyed student with a straight purple fringe parted on his right covering his left eye, called behind him. They turned to the unknown voice, as group of students walked over, led by a pair of students. The first was a girl around their age, medium height, and a deep brown hair with blue-green eyes. Next to her was an older boy, with blonde hair and a black mask that covered his entire face. Leading their group was a hairy boy. The two students along with him approaching them in an orderly manner were students who were wearing the iconic caps of UA's rival. The dark blue uniforms they wore made them stand out to the more casual UA. They looked so intimidating. Ribbit. As Yui stated, they standed before Class 1A with their hands held behind their backs. If Todoroki was being honest, they looked like a bunch of soldiers marching towards them. Kaminari and Siro snorted at the same time. Oh no! Inesa realized with a gasp after a second delay. He began, straightening himself. I am extremely sorry. Then he bowed deep, so deep that he smashed his head into the ground, forming cracks around him. The students watched in horror as the so-called student, Inesa, was bleeding from his forehead. What's with this guy trying to get by with just his enthusiasm? Kaminari inquired, completely astounded as to this newcomer. Aizawa jolted in surprise. He is. Aizawa mused. Wait, that uniform. Jiro noticed. It's from that famous school in western Japan. Kirishima realized. UA in the east, Shiketsu in the west. Bakugo finished for Kirishima. Of the many hero courses, it's an elite school that rivals UA Shiketsu High School. Todoroki acknowledged. I wanted to try saying it just once. Plus ultra. Yurashi said with a fire in his eyes, even as blood dripped down his forehead. I love you at a high school. I am extremely honored to be able to compete against UA students. I'm looking forward to it. I like the guy. Even if he looks a little intense. Hagakure said. A little you say? Mina questioned. It was at that point that Eraserhead got up to see what the commotion was about. Stepping to the front, he paused, narrowing his eyes as he took in the other group of students. After a moment he spoke, giving the other students a careful look. So, Shiketsu has decided to take part in the exam, it seems? You are correct, Eraserhead-san. A voice from the other group of students called out. A second later, and a third person emerged to join Inesa and Seiji. This person was tall, covered entirely by light brown hair, with no distinct features besides his eyes, which only show up occasionally. Mineta muffled his laughter behind his hand. Kaminari observed his grape friend and lifted an eyebrow. Dude, what's so funny? He asked. Mineta calmed a little and looked to Kaminari. You want to know? Kaminari nodded eagerly and Mineta leaned down to his ear. He murmured something that made Kaminari cackled in laughter. Mineta tried to shush him but everyone heard him. Why is Kaminari laughing? Midoriya asked with wide green eyes. Mineta placed a hand on Midoriya's shoulders and said, Believe me, you are too young to understand. Midoriya's face morphed into a bewildered state. We are participating students of Shiketsu High School. On behalf of my school, I want to say how much a pleasure it is to finally meet the students of our rival school in person. I am Mora Nagamasa, and this is my classmate Shishikura Seiji. The hairy student said, signaling the purple-head student. Over there is Yorashi Inesa, one of our first-year students. Inesa greeted the other Yuta students with a giant smile. I see. Aizawa replied, looking over the gathered Shiketsu students. Well, as you can already guess, I'm Aizawa Shota, Class 1A's homeroom teacher. He then gestured to his side to his students. Greetings, Ida said, taking Nagamasa's hand and giving it a firm shake. I am Tenya Ida, my class's representative. Is it safe for me to assume that one of you are the representative for your own class? You'd be assuming right, Ida, but you're not quite close either. Seiji responded in a clipped tone. At Ida's puzzled look, Inesa spoke. What Seiji-senpai means, Inesa cut in, is that the first-year representative isn't with us at the moment. Representative? As in singular? Kaminari asked in confusion. Maybe their shoal system is different. Yaoyazura said. How will one single person manage to lead a whole grade of first years? She thought. Tenya furrowed his brow. And your teacher? Did they not come with you? Nagamasa nodded. Yes, but the other two representatives are gathering the rest of our classmates. Those of us here are the ones who were ready and able to leave early. He gestured to the dozen or so Shiketsu students behind him. You see, Shiketsu does not function quite like UA does. I see. Tenya replied. That I had no idea. Don't worry, Ida, we had no idea either. Ojiro said. Shiketsu didn't become UA's greatest rival by being slouches, Eraserhead spoke up. People call UA the best school for hero training because we advertise ourselves as such. But make no mistake, if there was one school that could put us to shame, it would be Shiketsu. As it should. A new voice interjected. Turning, everyone watched as a new girl came over, leading a couple dozen students behind her. She was tall, taller even than Momo, with straight light brunette hair that fell flat against her back. Both she and the students trailing her wore the uniform and caps of Shiketsu High. Who the F are you supposed to be? Katsuki asked in his usual rude manner. Mineta was grinning like a maniac and tried to get close to the screen. I don't know, but I want to get to know her. Kami Atsushimi, Shiketsu's second-year Hero Corps student. She introduced, waving her hands. So, you kids must all be from U. Then? Kami. Nagamasa acknowledged as he came over to him. You're late, said Seiji. Ah, Seiji-chan. You're always so mean to me. Kami replied with a whine. In seconds, the calm and collected air she'd had around her melted away as a pout took over her features. It wasn't even my fault. I had to wait for our little Kohai. Blaming things on the general now? General. The class asked. General. Tenya asked, speaking up for the first time since she'd arrived. The representative for the first-year students, Nagamasa answered, lifting one of his mustaches and pointing it towards the buses. Though it seems that he has not arrived himself yet. As if that were a cue, one of the students stepped out from behind the group. It was a face that was recognizable among them, if only to a handful of those from UA. Some Shiketsu students tensed at his arrival, but others smiled at his presence. Midoriya gasped, as well as other classmates of 1A. Is that me? Midoriya took a closer look, and yes, it was definitely him. I'll look different though. The person was a male, short and lean build with a mess of curly green hair. Smiling brightly, he rushed to introduce himself, shaking each of Class 1A's hands. Hi there. It's an honor to meet you all. I want to say, it's so cool that you all decided to show up, despite everything that's happened to you. It's so admirable that you all still want to be pro heroes, despite your shortcomings. It's really bold of you to show up. He smiled to each of them. I don't know if he is trying to be nice or rude. Uraraka thought. He's too bright. Mina said, covering her eyes. Todoroki noticed the other boy. He had a fluffy green hair under his cap, an obsidian high-collared coat over his uniform, and the face of a leader. Without a doubt, this was the so-called general they were talking about. Midoriya? The general? Shiro questioned. Me? The general? Midoriya asked, baffled. I mean, it makes sense if you ask me. Midoriya was voted class rep on the beginning of the year, didn't he? Yaoyorozu said. I guess you're right. Midoriya mumbled, getting shy all of a sudden. It's still odd listening my name with general in the same sentence regardless. From the first glance, Bakugo knew who he was in an instant. That emerald green hair was a little longer than it used to be, and his messy bangs almost covered his eyes. He might look different from his past self, but he'll recognize that face wherever he went. Within moments, he'd worked his way through most of them. And in seconds, he stood before Todoroki, who looked at him blank-faced. From among you there's Todoroki, son of the number one. You have a special strong quirk there. Since All Might is out of commission, I'm not surprised to the news that he'll be number one in the future, but I'm still a little weirded out to hear that. Mina cringed slightly, trying to hide her expression as to not offend Todoroki, but then she remembered he was on Hatsume's machine, so she sighed in relief. Majority of the students nodded, agreeing with Mina. All Might. Midoriya thought sadly. He's not ready for that day to come. It's nice to meet you. Midoriya began. Today, I'll do my best while learning from you. Todoroki cut Midoriya off, slapping his hand away and shooting him a glare. Stop pretending. What you're saying doesn't match the look on your face. Todoroki said, not believing this boy's facade. The students stared in shock. They have got used to Todoroki being nice, so it was really a peculiar sight to see Todoroki being all cold and aloof. Midoriya startled, but hid a smug grin under his face. Midoriya stared at his counterpart with a questioning face. What was that about? Did he just imagine it? Hey, don't be so rude, Todoroki-kun. Uraraka said. Todoroki-san. Tenya gasped out. Turning on his heel, Tenya bowed deep to Midoriya. Midoriya-san. I apologize for my classmates' behavior and hope you do not see it as a reflection of the rest of us. Ah, Ida-san, there's no need to apologize. Midoriya replied with good nature. Shoving his hands into his pockets, he smiled again, his bangs falling before his eyes. You aren't responsible for the actions of your classmate. Besides, it's fine. It just proves just how amazing he is. Senji sighed, watching as Midoriya continued with his greetings. When he'd reached Kirishima, he made to take his hand, only to falter upon seeing who was standing beside him. A moment later, his grin was once again plastered on his face. Kaken, I didn't know that you were going to be here. Apparently, that was as much as Katsuki could take. With explosions threatening on his hand, he said. What the F are you doing here? The boy paused to look up, and Viridian eyes met crimson. What am I doing here, huh? He began first, a frown hidden under his bags. Well, to take the exam as you are, of course. It's nice to see you again, and in you that ain't no less. Midoriya's stare was more intense this time. No, this time, I'm now for sure I didn't imagine it when I saw it before. Is the Todoroki on that universe saying the truth? Was this counterpart of his not what it seemed? Bakugo scowled, holding up his palms to ignite mini-explosions, and the explosive blonde took a threatening step forward. "Bakugo, that's enough," Aizawa ordered. The ashen blonde stopped and huffed as he complied with the order, not wanting to get his teacher's wrath. Aizawa sighed before looking towards his student's target. "Apologies on Bakugo's behavior." "No need to, sir, I am already used to Kaken's explosive personality." Kaminari laughed, but stopped when Bakugo's crimson eyes looked on fire. "Don't make a comment, dunce face." Bakugo growled and his classmates ignored him, knowing that by talking to him they would just get a "die" for response. Todoroki looked at his teacher quizzically when he heard him saying something under his breath. "Well said, General." Kami came over with a small smile. "Anyways, you certainly took your time showing up." Izuku laughed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah. Sorry about that, Kami," he said. "I tried to get everyone on as fast as I could, but not everyone was ready. Not to mention that we had a flat tire, and then there was traffic and the weird weather." "Not to worry, General. Glad you could make it," the hairy second year said. "Well, it has been nice to meet you. And now, everyone, if you excuse us," he acknowledged, preparing to go after the slanted-eyed second year who began walking away. Aizawa saw Midoriya's retreating figure and narrowed his eyes. Hagakure took notice and asked, "Mr. Aizawa, you know him?" "He's strong." Aizawa perked up at that. He already knew that Midoriya had the potential to be strong, but the way his other self phrased it made him believe that the counterpart of this Midoriya was different than their Midoriya. The students managed an so Aizawa kept talking. "He's Midoriya Izuku, Shiketsu's first-year student." Aizawa's voice called out. As one, the assembled students turned to see him. For once, he looked fully awake, his usual tired expression replaced with an focused stare. "He's Shiketsu's prodigy student." "Wow, Deku-kun. It seems you are indeed a great student in Shiketsu on that universe if Aizawa-sensei is saying such nice things to you." Uraraka praised, placing one hand on his shoulder. "Ah, thanks Uraraka-san, but I haven't done anything my other self did," he said sheepishly, blushing from the sudden contact on his shoulder. "Yeah. Don't praise the fucker, he hasn't done shit," Bakugo yelled. Those 3 words rendered most everyone speechless. Even Katsuki was silent, so great was his surprise. Izuku was smiling where his classmates were, walking with them into the distance. Last year, the same year as you guys, Midoriya took the entrance exam. He passed, but at the last minute he rejected his admission to the school. I really don't know why, since he managed to destroy a 0-point robot in the exam, leaving it almost into dust. Midoriya was intrigued and confused at hearing this. Why would he reject such a great opportunity? He have always wanted to get into you. What made him change his mind? Well, no, his other self mind? And the question that was plaguing his mind the most was, did he had one for all in this universe too? Since he destroyed the robot, is the only possibility he can come up with. That's insane. Who would reject you today? It's ridiculous, Ida said in a disbelieving tone. Maybe he had a change of heart? That explains why he's in Shiketsu now at least. Kirishima said. What? Then he's a first year. Then his abilities are above Todoroki's? Kaminari exclaimed, scared of his quirk. Wow, I wonder what kind of quirk does he have? Uraraka exclaimed. Todoroki narrowed his eyes. Midoriya Izuku, from Shiketsu High School. Heterochromatic eyes followed the green-haired head on the distance. Something inside him awakened, a spark that had been dormant for years. He didn't know why he was mildly interested in Midoriya, or also known to Bakugo as Deku. He just knew that he needed to learn more. Just because he would be a rival in the future. The interest was surely because of that. Yeah, Suyer Todoroki. Mina winked at the screen, while Midoriya looked confused at her behavior. Bakugo's scowl deepened at every time Deku's name was mentioned. The nerd with a quirk? Yeah, sure, that's such a FNG bullshit. He thought bitterly. I wouldn't believe it either at first. Bakugo thought in anger. He seems nice. He looks cute. Don't let his appearance deceive you, he's the real thing. Aizawa then added, "Keep an eye out for him." Aizawa had a thoughtful expression, remembering what Nizu told him. "It's not Yurashi you should be worried about. This year's first years are real demons, but amongst the demons there's an angel in disguise." "An angel in disguise?" Aizawa asked incredulously. Nizu smiled. "He'll look like an angel to you, but behind his disguise, he's just a devil who surpasses the others." "An angel in disguise? Does that mean Midoriya is someone dangerous?" Midoriya glanced at Ida when Ida then cleared his voice and clarified. "Not you, of course. The other Midoriya." If Nizu-san warned Aizawa-sensei beforehand about it, it seems that our class is going to have a bad time with him on the exam. Yaoyorozu said, with a hand placed on her chin in thought. "But why Deku-kun? This person looks the same as our Deku, right? So what makes him different in this timeline then?" Uraraka asked, confused. "His eyes," Aizawa said, interrupting the class thoughts. "It's in his eyes. He's not the same as Midoriya." Midoriya glanced at Aizawa curiously. "So he's not the only one that saw through me," he thought in wonder. As expected of Eraserhead. The look he gave, the aura I perceived form him, it was all fake. "So I'm guessing he's going to use that against you, or more like, use that against your counterparts." Aizawa looked worried for his class, but he couldn't do anything for the other universe. Ayazawa sighed and shook his head. Nizu and his riddles. He called the group once again. "Oi, change into your costumes and go to the orientation. Don't waste time." This was answered with a couple of, "Yes, sensei." "Is this over?" "Then, I really wanted to see some fighting," Mina said in displeasure, while Midoriya nodded in disappointment. "Wait guys, I think the screen it's not over-projecting." Uraraka signaled to the screen flickering. Izuku trailed off, looking around the crowd. Did Mizu and Kinzoku made it? Seeing Inasa's nod, he sighed, visible relief washing over him. "Then it's game on." Midoriya murmured softly, readjusting his hat and grinning to himself. His smile wasn't so innocent anymore. The students had their doubts about this Midoriya, but this did confirmed it. "So Nizu was right," Kaminari whispered before yelling, "Give the $5 Mineta. I knew this Midoriya was evil." "You bet on me?" Midoriya asked to Kaminari with a confused tone. "Well, yeah bro, sorry, but they were the easiest $5 on my life." Kaminari snickered when Mineta grumbled and got out $5 out of his wallet. Aizawa sighed and rubbed his brows in irritation. "I really didn't thought Midoriya could be, well, you know." Kirishima trailed off. "What were you guys expecting? We're literally seeing the multi-universe." Jiro knocked some sense into them when she said those words. Naturally, it was to be expected that in other universes, Midoriya isn't going to be the same as the one they know and love. But that doesn't stop the weirdness of it all to hit them like a brick. They barely processing all of the events that are developing under their eyes. So yes, it was still all new to them, and the aspect of a new Midoriya, or new Todorokis, is still fresh on their minds, even if they aren't the real ones.